All right, guys, we are here. We are live. Welcome to a brand new Poker Live podcast. My name is Jose Ingram, one aka Chicago Joey, joined today by a young man who is a longtime friend of the podcast. People always say, Joe, when are you getting a mixed game specialist on? When are you getting a mixed game player on? We don't like that PLO. That's the best game in the world. We don't like to hold them. We want a mixed game player. And finally, the time has arrived. My buddy Chris George, aka CeeGee, aka Mr. Preparation, aka Joey. What are we going to talk about on the podcast so I can write it down, prepare for it? I never had somebody do that, but I'm excited. I'm excited to have him on. We got Chris George in the house, aka CeeGee. What's up, buddy? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be on here.
Where you at right now, buddy? You in Mexico? You in an undisclosed location? You playing from somewhere that does not break terms of service on PokerStars or what?
No, I follow the rules. It looks like I'm in Mexico with the tank on, but I'm in Vancouver right now.
Vancouver. What part of Vancouver are you living in?
Yaletown, like right near the the restaurant strip, like in mainland.
Chris, you remember that story we were just talking about? About the hair salon and that's literally probably less than 2 minutes from where you're staying right now, by the way.
I probably know where that hair salon is. Yeah.
All right, I don't want to repeat that on a recorded podcast. So let's just say that was something that me and Chris discussed previous to the podcast. Now we're getting into the podcast. All right, guys. So we are live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. Any comments, any questions, please go ahead, leave them in the chat. All right, Chris. So mixed games, man. So what's up with mixed games? Tell us about mixed games, because my understanding of mixed games is honestly nothing. So when they're like, get a mixed game player on, the only mixed game player I know is my boy Brandon Shaq Harris, and then I know you play mixed games, but I don't know exactly like I'm just not sure exactly what the mixed game world really entails. If there's high stakes, like what are the high stakes? Who are the players? Like who's good, who's bad? So just tell us a little bit about this mixed game world of the online and live world.
All right, so I mean, where do I start?
That was a fucking great question by me. I really set you up nice for that one.
So the mixed games basically encompass like every form of poker. There's no one game that you really get good at. It's a combination of all the games. So you have PLO, you have No Limit, you have all the stud games, all the Omaha games, so the high-low games. It's just basically, like the title says, a mixture of all the games. On PokerStars specifically, you have your 8 game, which consists of all the horse games: Hold'em, Omaha 8 or better, Stud 8 or better, Raz, Stud High, and then you have Triple Draw, and Pot Limit Omaha and No Limit Hold'em. So when you're playing these games, you kind of are playing every single one of them in a rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always been a pretty interesting community of mixed game players throughout the years. It's been there's like 2 different kind of communities, right? There's the online games and then there's the live games. The live games are pretty ludicrous because they start really small, and then those are probably the highest games you're ever going to play live.
So can you explain that one more time?
Like the live games kind of have a high spread. You have like really small games that are 4-8 mix limit, and then you have like your 4,000 8,000 mixed.
Quite the jump up, puppy.
Yeah, so it's an interesting atmosphere to be in if you're a mixed game player, because there's a really high spread of games that you can get yourself into.
It sounds like there's maybe a too wide of a spread of games to get yourself into. But the problem I could imagine is that a lot of guys who maybe work on getting good at mixed games don't have a chance to play mixed games anywhere. So maybe that probably hurts the popularity of mixed games, which I believe that's
for sure. So like pre-Black Friday, there was an abundance of mixed games on Stars and Full Tilt. They had them anywhere from like 50 cent a dollar up to 400 800 ran almost regularly, and anywhere in between that. So you could climb the stakes, right? You could start playing 50 cent a dollar, move up to 1-2, move up to 5-10, move up to 10-20, and 40-80, and then it would just keep jumping incrementally, and you could easily climb those stakes. But then after Black Friday, all the stairs basically collapsed in the middle from 400 800 to 40-80. So like the most common games that are running now would be either like 40-80, 100-200, and then 400 800, and that's it. So it's like it's really hard to get into mixed games, but if you're already in mixed games, you're kind of just trapped in that zone.
So
That makes sense,
yeah, no, it makes sense. How long have you been personally focusing on mixed games? Has that been your main game?
So let me tell you a quick story about my my beginnings, because I think they're kind of funny.
Okay,
So
we don't go into stories of beginnings in the podcast, but I don't know much about yours. So
it'll be quick.
I'm ready for it, Poppy. Let me hear it. Give it to me.
So the guy who got me into poker was one of the legends of BBV, Grimstar.
Oh God. I heard the Grimstar was allegedly spotted recently at Atlantic City being one of the biggest fucking degens of all time. Allegedly. This is what I heard from a very reliable friend and a reliable source. So
well, this is what happened. Yeah. So basically I grew up in a small town, and we were in the same crew of friends, and he blew up around like 17 or 18 years old, right?
Grimstar.
Yeah. And he had instant success. Like, we were playing in the same home games for fun for $5, right? And then a couple of months later, he goes off to college, comes back, and he's a millionaire. Like, pretty much in a very short span. So I thought, man, if this guy can do it, I can definitely do it, because he's one of my friends and I know him, right?
Fucking Grimstar. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started playing Heads Up No Limit Hold'em. That was my first ever game, and after a while I got so bored of it. Like, it was just so repetitive. There was only a few combinations of hands that you could basically memorize, and it was just like, I don't know, it didn't really feel like it was a challenge. So I started playing these like free roll horse games on Full Tilt Poker. I don't know if you remember, like way back, they had these free rolls of like 9,000 people, and you could play, and top prize was like $15 or something like that. I started playing those, and I just, for some reason, stud like stuck with me. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. I thought Raz was really nice, and it was really counterintuitive to everyone else at the time, because everyone was on the No Limit Hold'em train trying to make millions of dollars. And I was like, well, this is kind of challenging and interesting to me, so I want to see where I can take this. Right? Probably a mistake looking back, but I definitely gained a lot of insight into a bunch of different games really quickly, and that gave me a lot of value as a player, because I was able to like trade information with people. So that's kind of how I got into the mixed game scene.
So you've been playing mixed games for like 9-10 years now, then, it sounds like.
Yeah, I've been playing since I was, I think, like 19, 20, and I'm 28 now.
Wow. So you played all the stakes online? Like, what was the point? Like, what stakes are you playing right now, like online, live? I'm not sure if you focus more on online, if you focus more on live, or if it's a mixture of both.
Right now I play mostly online. I play anywhere from 2048 game to 100 208 game. And then for PLO, I play anywhere from 2.5 Zoom up to 1020. I took a few shots at 2550 throughout the year, but those are my main games.
Okay. Do you play any live mixed games as well, or maybe just during Vegas, or when you're in Vegas, are you on the tournament grind?
So I used to be on the live grind really hard. Like, I had some pretty long live years before I started playing online after Black Friday. And now I primarily only play online, and the only time I'll play live is when I go to Vegas for the summer. So
I gotta be honest, CeeGee, I might not have taken you in my fantasy draft last year if I knew you. I thought you were a tournament player. I drafted you on my team. I'm like, oh, CeeGee, man, you fucking tournament guy. Little did I know you're a cash game mix player. I mean, I still like my side. I like my pick, but I might have been inclined to maybe pick a tournament player in the 50K fantasy league. Every summer, for those who don't know, we're talking about, for every summer, there's a 50K fantasy draft where they draft teams of players and points, and there's a side pool that I join every year. And Chris George was on my team this year and did not lead me to the title. I think how many points? You scored some points though, right?
I was the top scorer for your team. I
know.
Or second top, maybe second top. I don't know. I did well.
I feel comfortable with my pick once again.
Yeah,
I knew. You know what? I had faith the whole time. I really do. I had faith the entire time in you.
The 50K is a funny draft, because the best players to draft are the mixed game players, and nobody knows the mixed game players, basically, right? So you get these people that have been grinding 100, 208 game online all year, and then they just jump into the World Series. No one's ever heard their name before, and then they play every single event. And they're like by far the highest EV players to be drafting in that thing. So
even if they don't play tournaments, though, or do you just think that them knowing how to play all these other games, they're good at tournament? Like it just translates over that well. It helps them out that much.
So the thing with mixed tournaments is they're very similar to cash games, right? There's very few tournament ideas that are gonna come into play when you're playing limit stud high in a tournament. There's a little bit of ICM considerations like way deep into the tournament and stuff, but basically you're just playing like you would play in a cash game. So the skills of mixed game players translating into mixed tournaments is very smooth. Like my first summer in the World Series, I hadn't played one like live mixed tournament. My first tournament, like I final tabled the stud 8 event, and I was just thinking like, how the hell did I do this the first time I've ever played? Like this doesn't make any sense. And then throughout the whole tournament, I realized a lot of these people just don't know what they're doing. Like you're in a much better spot if you have experience with the game that you're playing in the tournament than if you're a tournament player. Is my opinion. It might be a little controversial for some of the tournament players who, every year they jump in the mixed games because they're trying to win bracelets, but I think that's a better assessment. Is you're better off learning the game throughout before you jump in the tournament.
So do you think that's still the case this day and age, or do you think that at this current time in the poker climate that the guys aren't necessarily as spewy when it comes to entering all these mixed game events, and maybe their skill level has got caught up and they've gotten a little bit better at these mixed games over time?
So yeah, it's actually an interesting kind of thing that goes on during the World Series, because you have a lot of people that have success in tournaments with a lot of money chasing gold bracelets, basically, right? They're willing to play a $1,500 mixed game because they're willing to lose that money. It's not a big deal to them. And their skill is definitely not up to par with any regular mixed game player, but their chances at winning a mixed game are fairly high because the field is small.
Makes sense.
Right? So a lot of the tournament players used to splash around really heavily. Like they used to play all the 10Ks. The 10Ks were, really soft. They split them up between the 1500s and the 10Ks, and all these big name pros would jump in the 10Ks, and they'd never even played the game before. Like I remember one year, I think it was Elke jumped in the same 10K stud high event that I was playing. I ended up going super deep in it. I was chip leader with like 12 left or something like that, and Elke was like 5th or 6th place, and he was still he still had no idea what the hand rankings were, basically, like when playing on 3rd Street. And I remember talking to him about it at the table, and he ended up winning the whole thing. So like it just goes to show that like you have a really good shot at winning these mixed tournaments, even if you don't have a full understanding of the game. So
wow. Yeah. So in that instance, it sounds like it's better to be a good tournament player rather than be a good mixed game player.
There's definitely tournament like theory that helps in these tournaments, but overall I feel the mixed game players are going to have a much bigger edge.
Yeah, I think when I when I play these PLO tournaments, and like I feel like somebody who just understands tournaments but not PLO as well just has an infinitely advantage over me, because like there are just so many situations. I mean, maybe if I had a little bit more tournament experience, I don't have hardly any of it, but maybe like when I get in these spots with the short stack, like I know how to play the effective stack size well, but just in terms of like, these decisions that I'm just not too familiar with, I feel like even if a tournament player like just doesn't understand that much, 30 to 20 to 15 big blind PLO, just understanding tournament poker, they're going to be a little bit more plus EV than I might be in that situation.
So PLO is a vastly different game, tournament versus cash game. It doesn't translate nearly as well as mixed games translates from cash game to tournament. Without getting too much into some strategy right now, there's a lot of things in tournaments that you do differently than in a cash game that are going to help your longevity in PLO tournaments a lot.
If you want to talk some strategy about this, no problem, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely a different game, and the tournament players are going to have a lot of like just basically your 3-bet percentage. I'll give you a little bit. Like your 3-bet percentage should be going way down. You should be limping a lot more in earlier positions. Yeah, it's different.
Limping.
Yeah, limping, right. That's something that tournament players, I think, understand a lot. You know, playing in good spots, reducing your variance. I don't want to get too much into strategy because
That's
there's,
okay, man.
there's still a lot of soft spots in those things. But
my
yeah.
boy Phil Galfon says you gotta reduce variance in PLO tournaments, and before you make a gentleman's agreement, understand that you're gonna be all in. That's kind of the
Is that what he says?
That's kind of what he says. Yeah, he made this really epic, like 8 or 9 part PLO tournament series, and he just kept saying, I'm going to reduce variance in the spot. I'm going to reduce variance in the spot. I'm going to reduce variance in the spot. So every time I play PLO tournaments, I say to myself, I'm going to reduce variance in the spot. I'm going to reduce variance in the spot. So
it's hard though, you know, because as a cash game player, you see like a double suited pair or something like that, and you're just, you know, 3-betting from any position or whatever. You know, I don't want to start talking strategy. You're gonna get me on a windy road here.
Double suited pair hands, Poppy. You're turning me on over here when you talk like that,
Yeah.
man. You know the way to my heart, Poppy. You really do. So what's your current like place in poker? So you're playing these games, you know, are you having success? Are you in the upswing of your career? Or you think you're on the front side? You think you still have a long, because like I said, like I really understand the PLO people, the PLO players, the community. Like I know where people are at. I know who's been around for a while. I know who's on the upswing, who's in the downswing of their career. Even some no-limit players, I'm familiar with that world. But the mixed game world is just like, it's like a fucking, I don't even know anything about it, man. I feel like I know more about tournaments than I do the tournament world than I do the mixed game world. So
yeah, so it's later in the podcast we can do like a top 10 and everything like that if you wanna get down and dirty. But for mixed games.
okay.
But for me personally, I think I've had an interesting path because it's never really been straight up or straight down or whatever. I've had a lot of peaks and valleys. Basically, I've been broke like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
When you say broke, what do you, because there's different people view broke as differently. So what do you view broke as?
Sub $5,000 to my name.
Okay.
That's pretty broke to me in the poker world.
I've been broke. I've been broke maybe 35 times. No, maybe 20, 30 times, something like that. Nah, I don't know about that. Sub 5K.
Yeah. So
what about when you're negative money? Have you ever been negative money, like you owed maybe 35K or something like that?
Oh yeah. So one of the first times I ever got into the high stakes, like I got my feet wet. There was a guy who I guess kind of knew me from, I was a Deuces Crack coach for a while. I used to make videos for mixed games. And I forgot how we met, but he knew who I was and he ended up staking me. And when I was in college, I was playing like 30-60 stud 8. Like that was the game I was playing. That was where I was making most of my money. And it's a pretty big game comparatively. I don't know if you're familiar with limit games, like to no limit. Yeah, it's
not really, no.
So like 30-60 is like a $1,200 buy-in. So it's kind of like equivalent to maybe 5-10 PLO, maybe like 3-6 PLO, because PLO plays a lot bigger than limit. But I was playing the 30-60 stud 8, and he and I worked out a deal where I would play for him. And one of the few games that I was playing was the 8 game at the time. So I jumped in the 40-80 and I was doing well in that. And my best game is stud high, like by far. I've put the most hours, I think I could say, than anyone I know in stud high. And so he put me in this 100-200 stud high game, which is kind of equivalent to 25-50. And it plays an insane variance because there's 4 rounds of betting and all the hands run fairly close and the equity switches really quickly. So even if you're a favorite on one street, you could be a huge dog on the next street. It's an interesting game. But basically I ended up getting cocky with my skill and playing most people. And there was this one game at 100-200 stud high where only Chinese people sat. And I'd played them for a lot of the time I was in college, like heads up, and I did well at 30, 60, 10, 20, etc. So I sat at the 100, 200, and every time I sat down, it would be 2 guys from China that sat. And I was always kind of like curious about why this was happening. But I sat anyway because I knew that I was a favorite against both of them heads up individually. So I figured three-handed, I'm still in really good shape here. And I ended up losing the most amount of money I lost in my life in like a week, basically. Like I had like a negative 25K day, a negative 30K day, a negative 25K day, like back to back. And I didn't even know what happened. I thought they were playing terrible. I looked at all the hands and I just, out of nowhere, I was just like down 70K for this guy. And I kind of like thought about it, started talking to other people, and I think that they were possibly colluding.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wait a second. Let me back up. So you got the old Chinese shuffle pulled on you, kid. So for those that don't know, on Poker Stars and the stud games, there's always these like two Chinese people sitting at all the tables, all the stakes, all the time. Now, CeeGee, you decide that it's going to be a GTO spot for you to sit down and play three-handed with these two young fellows from China. And you think possibly you were getting colluded when you had your worst days ever against the two guys who didn't play that GTO.
Right. Yeah, it was like looking back on it, it was kind of ridiculous that it happened. But in the moment, this was before anyone knew these guys, right? No one had played with them because no one sat that high really. Like maybe some of the old school mixed game players played with them, but I never really saw them get much action. So, and I was the only one that would ever play 100, 200 stud high at the time. Like maybe, you know, a couple of people would stop in once in a while, but like I was the only really stud high player at the time. So I figured this is a really good shot for me. And it was, but if the way they colluded was as intelligent as was possible, then I probably had a very, very small like losing edge against them, even though they were colluding.
Did you email PokerStar? Nobody knows who these Chinese guys are.
Sorry, just lagged a little bit. Yeah, so I actually got really upset over all of this. Emailed PokerStars, and you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, just your screen lagged a little bit. Yeah, so I emailed PokerStars, and they gave me the most like, you know, standard PokerStars response, like, oh, we'll look into it. Our, you know, professionals will evaluate, you know, what's going on here, and then we'll get back to you. So whoever was in charge of like evaluating the gameplay clearly was not a stud high player, and clearly had not had the experience to understand what was going on in the situation. So like this went on for a long time, and I was really upset because I was in college now, stuck 70K with a tuition that I also took student loans for. And I thought like, this is it. Like I'm never going to be a poker player because of this, you know, because it was just such a hole for me to get out of, that it was causing me a lot of stress. And PokerStars never really did anything about it. It's just been this ongoing thing that they kind of ignore every time anyone brings it up. There was one time where they actually banned the Chinese players from sitting with each other, and there was only one allowed at the table at a time. And they never said why they did it. They just started to do it. So it became this like really big controversy in the stud world, because obviously no one wants to sit with these guys if they're colluding. And I think stud took like a really big hit because of this whole like, you know, controversy, because it's a great game, and I think it would attract a lot of players if they knew the games were good. But because those Chinese players were so like sketchy with like what they were doing, it just deterred a lot of people from ever trying to play that game.
All right, guys, I'm gonna give you guys some advice out there for free. I ain't gonna charge anybody for this advice. You ever see two guys from China sitting at a table, and you're the third guy on the table? It's a bad table to be at, unless you're playing in Macau, and even then you might be getting the Macau shuffle pulled on, the Manila shuffle pulled on you. So,
yeah.
So what happened at this point? So you playing these games, obviously, you were staked, right? So why do you feel so much stress in that situation if the money's staked?
Well, think about this. Like you're playing high stakes and you get crushed. There's no more high stakes games to play to get that money back, because the only game to play is the game you think they're colluding against you. So now you have to grind, you know, a third of the stakes to get anywhere and make any profit. And I was in college at the time, and I had no way of earning money. And my the way I was earning money was playing poker, like lower stakes, and that was what I was paying my tuition with, basically. Like,
So, so you were in makeup a lot, and and the only way for you to start making money to pay your bills was to work your way out of that makeup, but at a third of the stakes.
yeah. So I was young. I was not really educated with everything and how even staking worked. Like, I knew that this guy wanted to put me in a high stakes game. I thought I had an edge, and I learned a really valuable lesson really early on that, I made a lot of mistakes.
Was he Chinese by any chance?
No. No.
Okay, just thinking some things I've heard. So you could say in that situation, you playing in that game was one of the dumbest fucking things you could have possibly done at the time, then, huh?
At the time, I think I had the right skill set and I had the right view. I just think I got cheated.
Yeah.
Potentially, like, they played in a way that they were always in the pot with me when I had the best hand, and I couldn't figure out how they were colluding, because like I would have the best of it and they would just put in a ton of money, and then by the river I would end up losing a lot, because them combined generally are a bigger favorite to win the hand than me.
Interesting.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. So I guess in that situation, man, it's just like, when you're staked, or when you're and you take a shot in a game like that, even if there's like a 1% chance you're getting possibly colluded and there's no way to make the money back. I mean, I guess maybe the idea is, in retrospect, probably maybe smarter way not to play the game, or have a better stop loss. But
right.
In retrospect, so what happened? So what happened at that point in time? So you lose 80K in those 3 days, right?
It was like a span of a week or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. I ended up basically like having a dispute with my backer, because I was an idiot, like I didn't even know how backing worked. I didn't even know what makeup was. I was just thinking like, this guy, like, gave me an opportunity and now I'm screwed. Like, I don't know how did I get here, right? So I talked to him. I'm like, so what do I do now? Like, he's like, oh, just play the lower stakes. And I was like, I can't play the lower stakes. Like, I got to go to class. I got to, like, grind it out. And basically we agreed to like end the stake, and then I would pay him a percentage of the makeup, so I could buy out of it. And the first event I ever played at the World Series, that summer, basically after college, I had enough money, like I had like 10K to my name, and played a 1500 stud 8 event, and ended up final tabling it and making like 50K, and then paying him the percentage of the makeup that we agreed on. So I got out of that deal.
Are you sure this guy wasn't Chinese?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just wondering, man. It sounds fucking weird, like they're so you what happens if you don't bink that tournament? So if you don't bink the tournament for 50K score,
I mean, I don't know. I would have had to make a monthly payment of like X percentage of the makeup every month for like until I got it paid off.
Do you think in that situation you possibly might have just, like, I mean, if there's no way to pay it back in that situation, but you still want to play poker and you still have to do that to pay your tuition, do you think in retrospect that you might have, not having that score, might have potentially just not paid him back for a long time?
I would have definitely paid him back and done whatever I did. Like, I was dedicated in paying back what I owed. But yeah, I mean, I never thought for a second I was gonna like not pay him or duck him. I thought my life was gonna be like miserable for the next few years, because I was gonna try and figure out how to get out of everything.
So you get the score, you pay him back. Where do you go from there? Oh boy. Okay, I'm in.
Let's see. That was my first ever World Series. That was right when I was like finishing kind of college. I was 21, I guess. I had to be 21, 22. I was 22, 21 or 22. 20. So I got a list here. Actually, I wrote down what I was gonna.
I know you prepared so well, and I'm just avoiding. I'm avoiding everything on the list just to stick it to your preparation here, puppy.
Yeah, you got me good. So after that, I basically started grinding on my own. I started playing No Limit Hold'em, and living at home before Black Friday happened. I ended up playing like 1-2 Zoom or something like that on my own roll. I had a little bit of money that I could still grind off of, and I built it up, to like 30K or something like that, and was like, I'm going to Vegas. Like, I'm gonna take a shot at this again. Like, I want to start. This is the pipe dream, right? So I go on 2+2. I find in a marketplace there's like this house that they're looking for a person, and I was like, oh, this is perfect, right? It ended up being one of those stereotypical grind houses in Vegas, like 7,500 square feet, giant, like 10-bedroom place or whatever. So I go and I meet everybody. Shout out to Lake Topaz. That was the house name. And I ended up grinding my roll up there. My main game was 6 max no limit hold'em for a long time, actually. And then Black Friday hit. So as Black Friday hit, I was on a downswing. I lost all my money, but while I was in Vegas, I was doing, the whole partying every night, going out. I was playing the big games live. I was playing some mixed games like 150, 300, 300, 600, like pretty big games. Like,
what? Wait,
yeah.
How'd you get the money to play those games?
I was taking really, really unadvised financial decisions, basically. If I had like 60K to my name, like 20K was in play. So
I like it, man. I like it. It's aggressive, but I like it. Okay, so you're playing the big games, going out a lot, drinking, having fun, having a good time.
Yeah. Basically, it was pretty bad. Here's a quick story for Vegas story. We were out like at Caesars the night before, and there was this. I had a blackjack problem too, of course.
Okay, blackjack problem. Okay.
So blackjack was like my thing because I for some reason just enjoyed it. I don't know. I was pretty big into degeneracy when I was coming up the ranks. You give a 21, 22-year-old a bunch of money and you think you're the king of the world. So
for sure,
go out. So you start dropping, money on blackjack, on craps, whatever. So I'm in Caesars. We play blackjack. I lose like 3K instantly to this woman, and I'm like super tilted, and all my friends are watching, and they start laughing at me, like they needle me for losing 3K at blackjack. I was like, great friends, right? So the next night we're all going out, and it's excess. We go to Club Excess, and as a protocol for going out now, I only have like the money in my pocket that I'm willing to spend, because if I put any more money in my pocket than I should, it's gone. So
oh boy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're at excess. All right. How much money do we got in the pocket this night?
$600.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like my. If I spend $600 tonight, that's not a big deal. So we're out. We're having a good time. We got bottle service, all that stuff, and my friends and I are hanging out, and we decide to do the great idea of taking vodka shots with Red Bull or whatever. So we're out there, we're partying, and I kind of forget what happens, but I end up at the blackjack table with my $600 on the table. Like how Excess is set up, where you have the pool and then the middle is like the cabana with all the gambling. Have you ever been there?
Yeah, for sure.
So they have like $100 min table in the middle of the pool. So I'm sitting there with like $600 on the 100 table, and I'm like, oh man, how did I end up here again? Like, what am I doing, right? So I started ordering vodka cranberries at the table, and I kind of black out again. I come to, and I have like 2 or 3K in front of me. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is going well, right? Like, I guess I did something right somehow. And my friends finally find me, because I'd split off from my friends, and I'm playing blackjack like a degen in the middle of the night, right? And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh yeah, come play blackjack or whatever. So I like throw them a couple $100 to like hang out. Like, they all have a bunch of money. I don't know why I'm giving them money to play blackjack, but that's how it was back then. It's just stupid. So the whole time, I'm ordering vodka cranberries, and I kind of like come in and out, and I come back again, and I have like 14 or 15K in front of me, and I'm like, oh wow, like this is great, like this is good. And people are coming around. I'm like throwing them hundreds to come sit with me and play blackjack. I think I ended up tipping the dealer something like ridiculous, like $2,000 or something for that night. I don't know. This was bad. So the Excess was closing. It was like 4 or 5 o'clock, and all my friends were hanging out, and they're all like, chanting me on. Like, I'm betting like 500 a hand or 1,000 a hand now with like 15K or something stupid. And they're like, "Sir, we're closing up, but would you like a room?" Like they tried to like keep me here, obviously. And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm fine. We're just gonna go." So I rounded up all my friends. There was like 5 or 6 of us, and they're like, "What are we gonna do now?" And then the next step
Of course, rhinos.
when you're in Vegas,
Of
right?
course, yeah, of course.
So we're going in, and as we're leaving, as we're leaving, I'm walking past the encore, and my friend's like, "You can't leave now. You're on a heater. Like like you can't stop playing." So I'm like, oh, "Good point, right?" Like yeah, like inebriated me is probably like, this guy's a genius, right? I can't stop now. So I go and I lose like 6K real instantly or something like that. I don't know, like betting like 1K a hand, whatever. And I'm like, all right, I've had enough. Let's go. So we all go to the Rhino, and I ended up, long story short, buying VIP for everybody, dropped the whole 8K at the Rhino, and then then left in the morning.
For those of the people that don't know, the Rhino is the Spearmint Rhino. It's one of the biggest strip clubs in Las Vegas, where a lot of poker players spend a lot of money at.
Yeah, so those were my young degenerate days. They were filled with ridiculous decisions and poor life.
Let me ask you a question, Chris. What do you get for $8,000 in a Rhino?
Nothing that you would think, actually. Like it's not like that. It was more just kind of like champagne, hanging out. Yeah, nothing too down and dirty. We'll leave it safe at that.
How much fucking champagne are you buying for $8,000, Poppy?
I don't know. It was like a 4-hour escapade of like it's like champagne and I don't know. Yeah.
So what happens the next day? Where do we go from here?
All right, we're I think for now we gotta cool off, cool off everybody and take a break from that.
Okay.
Go a little bit away from that. But that was just like an example of what I was doing.
Wait, what do you mean? This is an example of what you were doing? What do you mean by that? It's an example? Like it's just one of the nights of many? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, it was. I mean, you put 10 poker players in one mansion in Vegas, give them a bunch of money, and you're going to end up having a lot of poor decisions.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so how do you end that summer then? So you're playing the high stakes mixed games. You got like a 60K-ish roll. What happens then?
Yeah. So Black Friday hits. I go on a big downswing. End up losing almost all of it. Had to sell my what was it called? My Breitling. I had I had the Breitling watch.
We all had a Breitling. We either had a legitimate Breitling or we had a replica Breitling we bought from the internet or Craigslist. We all had a Breitling back in the day.
Right. Against another financial advised decision, I bought a Breitling and a real one, and had to sell it because I had lost most of my money on the downswing.
Sounds more like an investment than a bad purchase to me. But go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. Exactly. So I always knew I could sell it, so it wasn't like the worst, purchase I've ever made. So I ended up selling it and then grinding 1-2-2-5 live no limit hold'em, which was the nut low basically. Like it was, I couldn't do it. Like I was making money. I ended up building it up a little bit. I was playing like some 5-10, but I couldn't do it. Like the people, the casinos, I hated Vegas at this point. I had done the whole party thing. I've done the whole live playing. I was sick of it. I just couldn't do it anymore. Until my friend offered me a stake to play in the high stakes mixed games in Vegas. So I was playing like 1-2-2-5 no limit because that's all the money I had. That's all I could afford. So my friend goes, "Hey, listen, I'll put you in these like 100, 200, 300, 600, sometimes I was playing 400, 800 games." I was like, okay. So he puts me in. The first night I have this is another story I don't have time to tell, but basically, you ever heard the guy Ali Islami?
Of course. Oh yeah.
So he was playing, I don't know, he and I played like this 150, 300 game mixed game, and he played this Raz hand so terribly that it tilted me to the point of just like saying like nice hand or something. Like I usually never said anything when I was playing. Like I was just so tilted. I was like, how did he play it this way? And I even bet someone $100 that he didn't play it. Like he misread his hand or he thought it was a different game. Like I was convinced he played it that bad that I was like, oh my God, like he must have thought it was a different game. And the guy took the bet, and it ended up being, yeah, he just made that play. And looking back on it, I think he definitely made that play to entice me to like play heads up. Like if he was like on that level, I think that was a possibility. So we ended up playing this game where I would sit down at 153. If I beat him for 5K, we would up it to 2.4. If I beat him for 6K at 2.4, he'd up it to 3.6. If I beat him for 8K, we'd up it to 4.8, and up and up and up exponentially. So the game would always get higher if I was winning. So I sit down with him, and I beat him at 153. I beat him at 2.4. I beat him at 3.6. I beat him at 4.8. And we're playing 4.8. I'm up like 30 or 40K or 50K or something. I don't know. And a fight breaks out in Ivy's room. We're in Ivy's room, by the way. A fight breaks out in Ivy's room. This is a long story. And I end up just picking up and leaving, right? I'm just like, screw this. This is my time to go. Like,
who's in the fight? Like people in the fight?
There was 2 guys. I don't know if I should mention names.
Why don't you mention the names?
I guess it's fine. It was like Ali Islami and Ray D, I think.
Oh, okay. So the guy you were playing heads up got into a fight.
Yeah, like Ray D sat down made it 3-handed at 4.8, and like all of a sudden he just like got up and was like, "Hey, you want to tell this kid why you're such a scumbag?" Like directing his words at Ali. Like he just started attacking Ali. Like I had no idea who he was. I had no idea what's happening. He just sat down and started berating Ali like relentlessly, and then like needled him in hands, like slow rolled him, just was like after him. And I was sitting there. I had no idea what was going on. I don't know either of these guys really well. And then all of a sudden, like Ali gets up and he's like, "Yo, what's your problem, man?" And then like Ray D like gets up and chest bumps him, and then they start like pushing each other and shoving each other in Ivy's room. The manager comes flying in, it's like, "You guys got to get out of here, take it outside." And then they go outside the door, and like one guy's like inside the door, kind of like poking out, and the other guy's on the other side of the door, like coming in. And yeah, this is the first time I ever played in Ivy's room, first time I ever played high stakes in Vegas. And this all happens, and then I just pick up my chips and I start to get out of there. As I'm leaving, they both come back, buddy, arm in hand, like arm around each other, and they're like, "Oh, where you going? Like we still got to play or something like that." I'm like, "What the hell just happened?" So I just get up and I leave. Like I'm like, I'm done. Like this is just weird. Like I don't know what that was, but that was the first night I played Vegas high stakes mixed games.
Are these guys Chinese too, buddy? They're not Chinese, right? None of them are Chinese, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay, all right. So what the fuck is happening? Okay, so you're playing 1-2-2-5. You get a stake. You're in this game shortly after.
Yeah, so I end up playing 153, 2.4, 4.8 almost every day for like 6 or 7 months, and I build up my roll, and I'm feeling great. I'm doing well, and Lake Topaz is done, right? Because Black Friday happened. No one's playing poker online anymore. We're all just sitting in the house. I'm going to live games. Some players are, become video game players now. And basically, Lake Topaz disbands in like August, October. I think like August or September, October. I don't know. And so I have to leave. And I'm like, where am I going to go? And I know that the best place for a stud player is to go to LA. So I go into Commerce and decide to play the 100-200 stud high game as my main game. I've heard it was like legendary. Everyone said it was a great game. You got to go play this. And so I did. I went, I played. I ended up playing high stakes again, like mixed games, like 2-4, 4-8. I played heads up against Ali Islami as like a grudge match again. Did stuff like that. I played like Sam Grizzle one night for 34 hours heads up. That was an interesting time. Yeah, there's a lot of different things, right? So long story short, I ended up going broke in Commerce because I'm playing way too high with too little of a roll, and eventually
you're not
I get
staked
burned.
anymore for this game.
This is staked. I'm still staked. Like I had been making money, but I was still staked.
So how'd you go broke then?
Because I lost all the money I was up, and I ended up losing my money on the side.
Oh, I say you didn't cash out your own money. You didn't put it to the side. You didn't be safe with your own money.
I made a lot of poor decisions when I was younger. Yeah.
Okay. So you go broke again out in LA. Then, and we're about. I think we're about 2011, maybe September, October, something like that.
No. This is like 2012, maybe.
12. Okay.
Yeah, 2012, going on to 2013 or something.
You lasted in LA about a year and a couple months then.
Yeah, something like that. No, I lasted in Vegas and LA for about a year. Like I went to Vegas in January, I want to say of like 2011, maybe 2011.
It was 2011. Yeah.
I left LA in February of 2012, I believe.
Okay.
Or February or March or something. So then after that, I was broke again. I had nowhere to go. I ended up back in New York with my dad. I was living in like a hotel basically because my dad worked for the hotel, and I had a hotel room for free. So I was like living out of there playing low stakes poker or something like that. And then my friend's like, "Hey, you should go play at the Borgata." So I'm like, all right, like I have no choice at this point. I just need to make money. And I knew how, and I knew I could. So I ended up grinding at the Borgata. What I would do is from New York City, every day I would take a bus. Yeah, that was not fun. A 2.5 hour bus ride. I'd have like 10K or 20K in my pocket or something like that with all these like degenerates around me. I thought I was gonna get robbed every time I took the bus. Went to Atlantic City, went to the Borgata, played in those stud games, ended up doing well, like started building back some momentum, started playing the mixed games again. And I was playing high again. Like it didn't take very long. I think the peak I was playing in the 600, 1200 game. And that was a pretty big game. And it was funny because they were playing stud high, stud 8, and no limit hold'em mix, 3 games, right? And they saw me coming over. They knew I was a young guy, and they just assumed I was a no limit hold'em player. So as I sat down, they're like, "We're going to take out no limit hold'em. Like, are you sure you still want to sit down?" And I was like, "Shucks, like don't take that game out." Like I was terrible at no limit hold'em comparatively to all those guys, but stud 8 and stud high were my 2 best games I could play. So I ended up playing in like that game. Played in a 75 150 stud was like my main game that I played almost every day. But yeah, I played Borgata, and then my friend was like, "Hey, I know a game in Pennsylvania. What was that casino that just like that opened up?"
Rivers.
No. It was actually a little while ago.
They'll know in the chat. The Pennsylvania people in the chat. Shout out to everybody from Pennsylvania. Shout out to your dad, by the way, for letting you stay with him in the hotel.
Yeah. Shoot, what was that called? I can't remember right now. It was
somebody in the chat will tell me.
Sure. It was the one that Mac Lance was promoting.
Oh, Earl, tell him what it is, Earl. Parks.
Thank you. Okay. So my friend was like, "Yeah, there's this juicy game in Parks. You got to play." And it was like 100, 200. So I started playing in that, and this guy backed me in it because he knew that it was like my best game. So I was like, "Oh shit! Well, here I am again, backed like two years later, like playing high stakes again," and ended up going up and down a lot. The game went from 1-2 to 3-6, and you could easily swing 30K in a day in that game. It was pretty high. And eventually the game got so big that my friend was uncomfortable with keeping me in the game. So he's like, I have to back out of this. And I was like, okay. So he backed out, and then I had nowhere to go. I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And that's when I went to Mexico.
So at this point in time, you have any money? You busto or what?
I'm pretty busto. I have very much money. I'm like, I don't know, I have like 10K to my name or something like that.
Okay. And so you go to Mexico.
I go to Mexico and I start learning PLO. This is where the PLO journey started. Yeah. Because I think where's all the future money going to be? What's the best game for me to play? And through a while of prepping, I decided PLO would probably be best.
Okay, so this is in when? 2000?
This is like late 2012, early 2013, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Maybe early 2013. I have a bad memory of exactly everything that happened. But yeah, so I was in Mexico, grinded PLO. Didn't really do much. Lived there for about 9 months in Cancun, Mexico. And that was like another party city.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know. Have you ever been to Cancun?
I have not, but all the poker players I know that moved to Cancun.
Oh, you're cutting out. I can't hear you. Is your mic still working? Oh.
It was not working. I played unplugged. No, all the people I know that moved to Cancun now have real jobs, so it could not have been that conducive for actually being productive and working hard.
Exactly. That's the gist of it. I basically made friends with a bunch of Mexicans and rolled with like this Mexican crew of 7 or 8 guys, and we just had a lot of fun in Cancun while I played poker, and it was fun. Like, it was a good time, but it didn't really help my poker career. Like, so played that. Eventually had the World Series come up. Every World Series, this is basically how I made my money. Right? I would robusto myself through the World Series. Like, my earnings are pretty significant from the World Series, and this year wasn't different. After Mexico, I went to the World Series, ended up taking second in a big tournament, and then robustoed myself and had like a 70-80K roll or something, and went to Vancouver right after Mexico. So then after Mexico, I moved to Vancouver with a bunch of friends, and that's when my poker probably became the best it was. Because I was in a house with 3 really smart players.
Who are the players? Who are the guys?
I think I'm just going to leave that one a mystery, because I don't know if they want me to.
You guys playing each other's accounts, some shit like that? You don't want to talk about it or what? What's happening, man?
No, not at all.
I know how those poker houses work, man. I know how the poker house shuffle works, man. I spoke to some of those guys at PLO. I know Barco. Shout out to Barco. Shout out to the Dang Brothers. Shout out to the restaurant in whatever East Coast town they're in that they used to play PLO from. Shout out to those guys. I mean, I know people do the multi-account shuffle. It's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it wasn't the multi-account shuffle at all. Like, we all played totally different games. So
it was a house of 3 unknown guys and you. So 4 people total in the house.
Oh, it was me. 1, 2, 3, and like a 4th would come over pretty frequently. Yeah.
Okay, so 4 guys playing together, but they're hardworking guys. So you got a chance to learn from them. You got a chance to be motivated from them and get better at the mixed game specifically, or different games individually from each person.
PLO, actually. Like,
oh, these are PLO guys.
One of them was a PLO guy. One of them was a mixed game player, and I was a mixed game, and I had been working on my PLO game.
Who's the PLO player? Give me a hint. Give me a hint.
Maybe off camera.
Motherfucker. Give me a hint. Just give me a hint. A small hint. I'm not gonna guess. Just a hint.
Sorry, buddy. Another time.
I've got to know who it is then. He plays.
I would have mentioned his name if I'd talked to him before I did the podcast, but because I don't know if he wants to be known or not, I'd rather keep it hush.
All right, so we're in the house. We're getting better. You're doing your best at poker. Are you up? You're up now. Are you staked? Are you on your own action? What's the?
I'm on my own action. Okay. I've cleared almost every single stake I've had. I've made a lot of people money staking me in World Series events, because like I got stakes for World Series events where I would get some free rolls and stuff like that, and I ended up just crushing it for people. I'd make them like 6 figures. I would take back like 60, 70K or something like that, and that would be my roll. So like I did this every time I went broke in the summer, and it kept working for me. And then this time, this was the last. I had never gone broke since this. That's not true. But like this was kind of the sticking point where I was like, I'm not going broke again. Like I can't do this anymore, right? Like I got to start making all the better decisions. I got to stop doing stupid things. I actually like started becoming more of like a minimalist, like getting rid of all my material possessions, getting rid of all the things I don't need in life. And I was just like focused on basically poker, gym, and like more poker. Like that was my life. So I ended up doing well, and my game got better. And from Vancouver, I ended up going to Aussie Millions, did some traveling. Like I didn't do well at Aussie Millions, but I did a lot of traveling. So I went to Aussie Millions, and then I went to New Zealand, traveled there for a long time. After that, I went Euro traveling. I went all over Europe. And while I was playing, which was a mistake, actually, never play while you're traveling, because it's too hard to focus.
I agree. It is, especially playing online. It's if you lose some money, you want to be stuck in your hotel room for a week. You don't want to leave. Yeah. You extend your stay. It
was rough. I think one of the most tilting nights of my life was I was in Vienna staying at a hostel, right? And I was playing high stakes mixed games. I ended up losing like 20K. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Like I'm in a hostel lobby with a bunch of other players on a shitty internet connection. And I ended up losing like 20K. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, this is so stupid. I'm so tilted. And then I'm just going to go to bed. I go to bed and I have bed bugs.
Living the Busto life, kid. I mean, that's what the hostels, it's the gamble you take in the hostels.
Yeah. So I ended up having to like clear out my whole room, do all my laundry at like 5 a.m. after like losing a bunch of money. I was just so super tilted. Like and after that, I was like, I'm never playing poker while traveling again. That was the stupidest idea I ever did.
My buddy Marco says, which hostel? What's the name of it? Willemberg.
I can't remember. It was I've stayed in so many hostels in Europe. Like I don't know the names.
Okay.
There was a few that stuck out. Like there was one in Amsterdam called the Flying Pig that was amazing. There was some in like Budapest, Hungary, which were like super cool.
So what's hostel life like? Because I mean, I always stay in hotels, but what's the difference between staying in a hostel and a hotel, you think?
I think it's the community that makes it much better. Like you get to stay with a bunch of people that are in the same exact boat as you. You know, like you guys are all like roughing it. You're sleeping in the same rooms basically. Like you make friends really easily. You end up going places, doing things together. It's just it's such an easier way to meet people while you're traveling, and you guys all have the same kind of mentality while you're doing it. So like, it's pretty cool. If you're a solo traveler, definitely stay at hostels. In my opinion, I think it's just by far the best experience.
Is there like a lot of romantic encounters happening in these hostels, or is this like I don't know what's the?
Yeah, I mean, people hook up. Like, you know, you get your travel flings, right? Like, everyone's prone to getting the like, I don't know what term you would use for it, but like the travel like love bug or something. I don't know, but like it's
I think travel love's a good word for it.
Like travel love, like it's just like it's this kind of false sense of like, oh my God, I'm gonna find my mate while I'm traveling. You know what I mean? Like, and then you lose yourself in that weird fantasy world, and then you enjoy the time that you're traveling with that person, and then you're just like, oh, this is the best thing ever. You know, it's interesting. Yeah.
I've experienced a lot of travel. Experienced a lot of travel of CeeGee. It's I think you described it. Usually some travel I've experienced, there might be some extracurricular activities involved, some maybe things that are against TOS in specific countries that are involved to enhance this travel love. Yeah. But I know you weren't engaging in things like that, were you, Chris?
No, I never got into that scene really. Well, actually, I'm kind of unsure of what you're referring to.
Typically, we're talking about drugs here, Chris.
Yeah, no. Okay. I never got into that drug scene. Like, weed was the strongest drug I've ever done and probably will ever do. It just doesn't like interest me as much as other people. I guess it's just not for me.
I feel like the story has a drug problem fit in there, but I'm happy to hear there's not a drug problem fit into the story somehow. So we're good. Okay, perfect.
Just wholesome bad decisions made on my own without any enhancements.
Okay, so where are we at now? We're at 2013, right?
Yeah, and well, this is 2014 was all the traveling. We kind of like got into that, but
we're in 14. We're in 14 now.
Yeah, I ended up ending my travel in Germany. I lived in Germany for like 2 or 3 months.
What part of Germany did you live in?
So I traveled throughout Germany. I traveled Munich. Wow, I'm just like drawing blanks. I'd met this girl while I was traveling and ended up traveling through Germany with her and then staying at her place for like a month.
What the fuck? I did the same thing this summer. What the way? Who's the girl? What's her name? Please tell me it's not the same girl. I literally did the same thing. Well, I've known her for a long time, but I did the same thing this summer.
It's not the same girl.
What's her name?
No, I'm not gonna release that information.
People in Germany, a small country. What's her? Are you sure it's not her? Are you sure it's not the same person?
You can say your girl's name, and then I'll tell you yes or no. How about that?
Starts with an S.
No.
Thank God, man. Fuck, dude. We're Eskimo bros or something like that. Shout out to my Eskimo bros out there in the world. Okay, so you met a girl. You're staying with her in Germany.
Yeah, and then I was kind of like, well, what's next? Because I wanted to start playing poker again, but I had been traveling for so long. I'd been traveling for like, almost that whole year from Aussie Millions in New Zealand to Europe. That was like all of my 2014. I was just been traveling the whole time. And I played the World Series, and that was it. So I was kind of stuck, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't go back to Canada. Like, I don't have that much money anymore from traveling. I spent a lot of money traveling. That was worth it. That was the one investment I think in life that I would never regret, is spending all the money I did on travel. So now I'm in Germany and I end up playing like micro PLO. I started playing, I think 10 cent, 25 cent PLO end of 2014. It wasn't that long ago.
Okay, then what? This might be literally one of my favorite stories of all time. I feel like it's a long. This is one of my favorite stories of all time. Okay, so 2014, which was a year ago, you're playing micro 10 cent, 25 cent PLO in Germany.
Yeah.
What is the girl doing during this though? The girl in German girl. What's she doing?
Well, that didn't really work out. So
of course, it didn't work out. Of course not.
Yeah.
It never works out with a girl from Germany.
So I was in Germany. I was in her hometown, and then I was like, I can't stay here. Like, I got to get out of here, but I can't really go very far. So I ended up going to Berlin. So I got like an Airbnb place in Berlin to play micro PLO for a month while I figured out what I was going to do.
Okay.
So I was in Berlin, and I was like, the only option I have is to succeed, right? Like
it's true.
I've had so much experience failing. I know what I need to do to succeed. I've built up roles. I know I have the skill. I need the discipline and I need the motivation. So I just cut all the BS out of my life and I started working really hard. I studied every day. I put a post out on 2+2 looking for a study partner for PLO, and then found this guy who was like playing micros, right? Like it didn't matter who it was to me, right? I didn't care what he was playing, how good he was. I just wanted the accountability of having a player I could study with every single day, because I knew I had the potential to get better and start beating higher stakes as long as I was disciplined. So this guy and I, shout out to Kevin, he was the man. We studied every day for like a couple of months, like straight. And I ended up climbing PLO while I was studying with him. And then I started playing mixed games, started building up my role. And then Christmas hit, I went back and I ended up having like a decent role and moved to Vancouver again. So January this year, I moved to Vancouver and I was like, that's it. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to live here. I love Vancouver. It's a great city. I'm going to study hard. I'm going to beat PLO. I'm going to beat mixed games. I was just so gung-ho. Studied my ass off, started playing, had a heater, started watching your podcast.
Shout out to the podcast. Shout out to me.
Podcast run good.
Podcast run good for the win. Okay.
And ended up just playing high stakes PLO. I shipped a tournament. I shipped the Supersonic one day.
How much did that for?
I was 45K or something.
Not bad. Not the worst score, not the best score.
No, I mean, score? You have a 55K in one day. That's a lot of money. I never won a tournament. I've always come second or third, or fourth or fifth. So I was super stoked.
Not the best score, not the worst score. The 45K, not the could be worse. Could be a worse day for sure.
I mean, I've had some pretty good World Series scores, but this one was all mine. This was the first one where it was all of it was mine. I didn't share it with anybody. I had the money. I was like, this is awesome. And you know what I did? I instantly sent it to my friend and said, don't let me touch this.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, you know what I did? I'm like, here we go again.
This was the changing point, I think. I ever since that, I've been disciplined and
when was
saving
that?
money. That was in February, I think.
So February of this year.
Yeah. And ended up meeting an amazing girl in Vancouver. And have been dating
her potentially, because I know a lot of girls from Vancouver.
No, you don't.
Are you sure? What's her name start with?
G.
What's her name?
Grace.
Grace. Shout out to your girlfriend Grace. I do not know any women named Grace. Luckily for us both. Shout out to my Eskimo bros, but I do not know any girls named Grace in Vancouver. Okay, so you met a girl named Grace. Where'd you meet her at?
We actually met on OkCupid.
Okay, Cupid. It's a good place to meet some women.
Yeah, I mean, I was. Here's a fun story. I was going to bars, in Vancouver because it was January or something like that. I just moved to Vancouver and I was like, oh, it wouldn't be the worst thing to meet someone here. So I started going to bars with my friends, and ran into Ben 86 randomly at a bar.
Nice. Okay. Shout out to Ben86, friend of the podcast.
So ended up going around like to different bars, hung out with him a bunch, and I would go and different bars in Vancouver, just scout out the scenes and stuff like that. And I got so tired of it, right? Like I was just so, it just didn't really work for me. Like all the girls I found, I just didn't really like their attitude, and like I just felt like if I was going to meet a girl, it wasn't going to be at a bar. So I started the OK Cupid, thing, and ended up finding Grace, and we met, and the rest is history, I guess.
Wow. So where are we at in the poker right now? So that was 2015 February. So where are we staying now? What's been happening since February to this year? Obviously, you had World Series of Poker this summer. Looked like you did pretty well there too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at an all-time high now. So like, I feel a combination of discipline and hard work has gotten me here. And maybe if I had been more disciplined and worked harder when I first started, I would have been, one of those guys who hit the poker boom while they were making tons of money. But because I kind of built up my role during the hardest time of poker, it's been tough. But yeah, I'm doing well. I'm playing like I said before, I think like anywhere from 2040 to 100 208 game consistently. And I play 2.5 Zoom to 25.50 PLO. Yeah.
Wow. Hell of a story, kid. Hell of a fucking story, kid.
Yeah.
That
was it.
One of my favorite stories I've ever heard on the podcast. That beats all the Viffer stories. I mean, the Viffer stories are good, but they don't have that sustained length of the story like this story, man.
Yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had like a few things in during those times, some funny stories, but generally that's the gist of my poker story, because I think I'm not someone who's innately super talented when it comes to poker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me. Like it's hard for me to be disciplined. It's hard for me to make the right decisions all the time. And I definitely still tilt a lot and still have to deal with it, but I feel like I'm dealing with it a lot better than I used to. Like, let's say I had 100K to my name back in the day. If I tilted, I would lose a third of that instantly if I was playing, because I would try and win it back. My mentality was just so weak.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew how to deal with it. So I think now I've learned how to deal with it through a lot of work. Yeah.
Well, a lot of trial and error. You sort of you fuck yourself in the ass so hard so many times that you get to a point where you're finally like, listen, I can't keep doing this to myself. I can't keep like me doing this is just it's hurting myself so bad that eventually I feel like at some point for people it sort of snaps into place. And unfortunately what happens is, it can still come back. And I guess that's the trick for you, is just to figure out a way to avoid that happening in the future. Obviously, I think it helps that there's not that many. Well, mixed games, there are some pretty high stakes games that run, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can play 100, 200, maybe 3 days out of the week. But like consistently, that's why I moved to PLO, because I can play 5-10 every day if I want.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been playing a lot of 5-10. I've been like mixing it up, getting in the streets with the heads up players. Yeah, I'm slowly getting into the PLO community. I feel like I have a study partner who's really good. Helps.
What country is the study partner from?
I actually can't tell you.
Come on, man! What the fuck? Why are you so secret about this bullshit, man?
I gotta protect these people, man.
What country is he from? How would I possibly know it from that?
Because there's not many players from that country, like by far.
What stakes the guy play?
Same as me. Yeah. So anyway, like the PLO community is really interesting because I think it's kind of divided up. You have your Zoom players and you have your regular table players, right? You're still scratching your brain about who it is, aren't you?
Yeah. I think you might have trolled me on that clue though. From the country, not a lot of people play ATL Schuler.
No.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Go ahead. It might be him. Let's go. Okay. So there's divide. There's the regular table players and the Zoom players.
Yeah, and then you got your heads up players, and they're all very different. So
Well, the regular table players are usually like the scripters, the bum hunters, the guys that more unknown guys. Not many of the regulars like that are more known as the better players that really just play only regular tables these days.
yeah, that's it doesn't bother me that they're scripting, but it's just so lame because I can never get a seat, right? Like I I kind of like the regular tables because the players that are playing them are weaker than the Zoom players.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just impossible to get a seat. Like I'll be looking at the lobby, I'll see like 3 players, meaning someone just joined,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll click the sit down and I'm first on the list. Like that's as close as I can probably get. Unless I start the tables, which is what I actually have been doing, is I'm gonna be sitting now at the tables, it's like waiting for them to start because that's I think the GTO thing to do if you're gonna try and play those games is you have to start the tables and you have to battle the regs to earn the right to start the tables.
We're gonna get into way too much strategy if I go any further on this topic, but I'm very yeah, I don't talk about this anymore. Okay, so you think PLO is gonna be the future for you, even with the rate changes happening in 2015, 16, 17, 16?
That's another sore spot now because my game is 510 plus and that's where the rate just drops now. So it kind of screws me. But in the same sense, if you're playing and you're not making money post rake, like what are you doing? Like you're just grinding the VIP system. You're not getting better as a player. You're not like, what are your goals? Are you just content on grinding?
Oh man, this is the best, guys.
Hands?
I just want to tell guys right now, this is the best advice you'll hear. This is the best advice anyone said pertaining to strictly specific, actually playing poker in the past maybe 35 episodes. I just want to tell you that right now, what he's about to say. So go ahead, say it again, because that's the I don't know if that's a lot of strategy right there. I swear that's a lot of strategy. If you don't think that's strategy, that's the most strategic thing anyone said pertaining to specific poker and how to get better at poker. This is the best piece of advice anyone out there can get. So go ahead.
I'm not kidding. Just hype that up so hard. I just said it's something. No, it's all right. Yeah, but seriously, it's basically you want to be learning and getting better at poker. If you want to be beating poker, you got to get better at poker. You don't put in hands passively. Putting in hands passively is going to get you really nowhere. It's going to get you the VIP system rake back. You're going to get, maybe like the top players are getting like what 100K a year from Supernova or something like that. Like 100K a year is great and everything, but if you want to make 100K a year and that's it, that's what are you doing in poker? Like get a job. Mm-hmm. I think like that's
the turning point for me was when I stopped. I stopped bum hunting for like 2 years because I was like, all right, I'm just going to play with anybody on where I'm playing at. And the reason why I feel like I'll probably win at PLO for the next however much long I really want to play PLO a lot is because I put that time in. I put the battle. I put the time in the streets. I played against anybody, shorthanded, heads up, any lineup, and you sacrifice some short-term EV, but you get so much long-term EV out of it that, I mean, I think that's literally one of the best decisions anyone can make in poker. So I got to take this podcast down now for that.
Yeah.
Best advice I've ever given right there, guys. Thanks to CeeGee.
I think it really depends on your goals too, right? Like I shouldn't like, poo-poo on all these guys who are grinding the VIP system. Because
I don't think it should depend. I think you should.
The thing is, like, listen to this. It's my goal in poker is to reach the nosebleeds, right? I want to be playing the high stakes with the best players. That's my goal personally. I'm not going to achieve that by putting in volume. That's not going to happen. I'm going to achieve that by putting work outside the game. That's the way it's going to work for me. For some of these guys, they're just grinding to grind. They're trying to make the rake back. They're trying to make 4 BBs per 100. And if poker is ever to inevitably get harder, they're gone. Like that's it.
For sure.
So if you want longevity in poker and you want to make money, like serious money in poker to make a living, I think the GTO approach is to be doing the hard work, getting your game better, moving up stakes, and still game selecting. I think you said bum hunting earlier. I think that's still a really important part of your overall game, because you need to make money. If you just play with good players day in, day out, you're going to make really low, BB per 100, and you're going to have a lot of high variance. It's really a hard life to like deal with all that. But for the most part, yeah, stop grinding your tons of volume and start getting better at poker.
That's the best decision of my life when I stopped 24 tabling. When I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this Supernova Elite thing anymore. Because I got Supernova Elite twice. I'm just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like this, I don't think this is going to, like I'm going to make what, I mean, okay. So when we think about this, it's kind of funny because, SNE was like 130K at the time. And if you won 30K before rake back, you're still making 160, 170K. But you don't feel like you're really like getting as good at poker as you can. I think for me, and it sounds like for you, that's a goal you have. You want to get really, really good at the game. And you can't do that 24 tabling. So,
right.
I'm
gonna take a quick pee break real quick.
Go ahead, man. I'm gonna get some shout outs to the puppies out there, man.
Hold on, man.
Let me get some shout outs. Who we got out there, boys? We got my boy Marco Papi. What's up, buddy? We got Delete TV. What up, Delete? Kevin Clarkson. What up, man? My boy Daniel. What's up? Daniel's popping in. What's going on, Daniel? Who we got? We got Jan Woller making a bunch of fucking trouble in the chat. What's up, Jan? We got M Harder 4. Shout out to M Harder 4, man. Welcome back to the chat. Got my buddy Daniel T, aka GG. See you later on Twitch. What's up, buddy? We got Bokes. We got Straight Floosh, Neff Boy, THL, Wiedemans, the Cuckold. What up, the Cuckold Puppy? CJ Cessna, CHI X Moda, Know It All In, D-Dog Killer. What up, what up, what up? Who we got? Simps. What up, Simps? Let me see, man. My boy Kevin Clarkson. What up, buddy? Matthew Simonson. What up, Puppy? Robert Valdez. What up, Robert? Damon Talwar says one of the best podcasts ever. What's up, buddy? Thank you very much. Glad you're enjoying. We got Willem Muller. What up? What up? Tobias, my buddy Tobias. What up, T Grinder? What's up, buddy? Welcome to the chat. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the comments and questions today, guys. Appreciate that, man. As always, we'll be back tomorrow afternoon with Brian Rass talking about his upcoming MMA fight. That'll be tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll get Canoe on the podcast sometime this week, maybe Friday after Christmas, or potentially next week or this weekend. I'm not exactly 100% sure on the date yet. We got my buddy Versace. We got Nose Dodo in the chat on Twitch. What's up, Nose Dodo? It's the longest piss perk I've ever seen in my life, man. It's tasting to get a bottle. We got Blob. What up, Blob 0259? Yo, man, puppy. What up, what up? Dash BY from Sweden. What's up from Sweden, man? Thanks a lot. Dankage. What up, Dankage? Rough Rank says first time listening live. Great podcast. Thank you, sir. Much love. I missed the podcast with D-Negs. I can't find it. If you want to find us on my YouTube page, I'll put the link right now on there. Welcome back, CeeGee.
Thank you.
Dude, I swear to God, I got to be the best fucking guy in poker giving shout-outs. I have to be. I don't think anyone fucks in my shout-out game. Like I'll go one-on-one with anybody at giving shout-outs. I swear to God, I will.
You know what initially attracted me to your podcast was, first of all, I'm a fan of poker. So I think what you're doing is like really cool. Right, because you have on these guys that I've idolized or have been curious about what's on their minds. So I'm tuning in for that alone. But then you do a really good job of interacting with the chat, and you interact with everybody basically. So like when I started watching it, I'd type in the chat some goofy thing or something, and then you'd like give me a shout out on the podcast, and I'd be like, oh, he gave me a podcast shout out, that's so cool. Like so as a viewer, it's kind of cool to get recognized, even though you might not be your sauces or your top tier guys. It still gives you kind of a recognition that otherwise is not got.
One of the most tilting things to me is a lot of poker. There's some poker players in the poker world on Twitter. Like they're always putting tweets like, "Hey," or "I'm hanging out with at this person." Like they only want to like associate themselves with other big poker names or whatever. And I've always wanted to be not like that at all. So, and plus I sort of think about from like what I would like too is like when I'm in a podcast, if I'm listening to my favorite podcast and like they're showing me love, like I think that'd be fucking like that'd be super cool. So I think that's something from the beginning I've always wanted to do. And, I guess it's easy. I gotten to know a lot of guys in the chat. Like I've had conversations with a lot of the guys that come all the time from the chat too, and just getting to know them and, hearing their poker stories and stuff like that. I think it's just, it's fun. Yeah. It's just like really cool experience just to know a bunch of these people in all these different countries. And when you go traveling, there's people like, hey, come here, like, hey, let's meet up, or this and that. So, it's a lot of fun, man.
I think one of the coolest things about poker, being a professional player, is like the community is so tight, right? Like everybody knows everybody essentially. If you're in, you probably know all the PLO guys, right? Like I know all the mixed game players. Like it's like the communities that it builds is pretty cool because we're all in it together. We're all trying to make a living at this game, and sometimes you kind of lose sight of that, right? Like sometimes you get this ego, or you associate yourself with being this or that or this successful or that successful. But in like the whole scheme of things, we're all doing the same exact thing, and it's kind of cool to have people that are doing the same thing with you that you can have like a conversation with.
I agree.
Yeah. So, and sometimes like, people glorify other people for good reasons because, they're super successful. And in the poker world, they're kind of like, these celebrities, I guess you'd call them. Right. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, let's call them poker celebrities. Yeah.
Poker celebrities. Yeah. I know some people get mad if people are called celebrities, but some people are like, pretty well known, and that's really cool. But if that like ends up kind of like getting into your head, it's just a whole nother world of poker. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think like it's a dangerous thing to get an ego in poker.
For sure. And I think you see a lot of the guys that used to have the big ego in poker aren't playing poker anymore. And you still get, you still have the guys, the WCG riders or the Jason Moe who have these egos but can still do well. But I think the number of people who can really have this outward eccentric ego and still make a really good living at poker is sort of going away, just because the type of person that usually has this big ego usually isn't the type of person who likes to really work hard. And
right.
Now it feels like you need to work hard at poker to still do really well. So
I find the best players in poker have the smallest ego by far, like bar none.
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't think so.
There's a couple out there that are, like you have your WCG riders, right? Shout out to Doug. He's got a big ego because he did the work. Like, the kid locked himself in a room or whatever and did a ton of work and came out and just crushed. I respect that highly, but you don't hear him too much recently talking a lot, right?
Like, no, not really at all. I think for a period of time he was trying to he's trying to ham it up a little bit and get more known in the poker world, potential sponsorship possibilities, and once I think he sort of abandoned that plan about a year and a half ago or something like that. So yeah, he's not as vocal on the on that area of life right now.
But that's probably because he's back in the streets, getting work done or something. I feel like he might come back and then start talking again. But like there's validity in having an ego there because he's done the work, he's done, everything there is. There's a lot of people that haven't done any work or done anything and that have just ran really well, and they have this huge ego that they're the best in the world. And those are the guys that end up collapsing.
You think any of those guys are still in PLO right now? I can't think of many. I mean, I gotta think about it for a second, but
PLO is probably one of those games actually that there's a lot of players that underestimate how small of an edge they have, just because of the variance and the longevity of like the weaker players can have in PLO. You have a run in PLO, you could easily sit up at 25-50 for a year or so until you end up finally realizing that you're a losing player.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know if there's people that are still winning, like, or even winning at 2-5 Zoom now that, you can certainly have some variance and run well there, but I feel like the place, getting pretty good to the point where you figure it out really quick. Like you can still run good. You still get those guys that have these massive upswings that might not be the best players. Shout out to, never mind. I don't want to get, shout out to Omaha for Rolls. Shout out to
Bang, bang.
my guy, Omaha for Rolls, man. But I'm just saying, like, you still get these guys that go on these sick heaters, might not be that good at the game, but like maybe he's gotten a little better. I don't know what he's currently up to right now, but
I played a bunch with him actually when I was playing 1020.
Was this recently or how long ago was this?
Like March, like February, March, April.
That was that was during the upswing, I believe.
Yeah, I was playing a lot with him. Yeah. Interesting style. That's for sure.
Very interesting style. A style that's conducive to potentially going on a few $100,000 upswing at the game of PLO.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, you have those players, they end up doing that, and then that's what happens. Like, same thing with mixed games. You have some guy who sits down. It's actually incredible in the mixed games how easily that is possible. You have some guys who just are clicking buttons and they end up crushing everybody, and then that's it.
Pretty sick. What do they keep playing or what? They go away?
Some of them, most of them keep playing and eventually lose it back. Some of them go away, but basically that.
We got a couple comments on Twitch. Let me see. What up, M Poker Puppy? What's up, kid? Let me see here. We had a question. Where was it at? One of the 2015 high stakes PLO awards taking place, Joey. Those nominations will be coming out soon. The official awards will be handed out hopefully over the next couple weeks. Did you see the 2014 high stakes PLO awards I did last year?
Sorry, I don't think I did. When was that?
That was end of December last year. We did some awards, gave out like 20 some categories, something like that. Wow. And yeah, it was fun. Made a post in Envy and 2+2 high stakes PLO thread or the forum in there. We gave out some awards, biggest DGen, like who the fuck is this at 2.5 Zoom, like for the guy that like dropped off them. Like we gave away some fun awards. It was
That's fun. That's always fun. I feel like those kind of like things are just like fun for poker. And if anyone ever takes those seriously, it's just like seriously to a point, right? Like it's fun. Mm-hmm. But you start saying like this guy's the best, that guy's the best, and then it's like, what are you talking about? I don't know. It just
trying to ruffle any feathers in the PLO community. You know, I don't like calling people, you know, I don't want this or that or something like that. So I was reading some today in NVG. What do you think about the Twitch stars? Are they stars? I don't know. That's Twitch celebrities. What do you think about these guys? What's your thoughts on this?
So I don't know if you remember, but I actually started trying to Twitch early this year.
I do remember. I was hoping you'd do more PLO.
So I'll answer your question first, and then I'll get to what I was doing. But I think it's really good for poker. I think it's probably one of the better things that could have happened to poker, actually, because the way you get exposure is exactly what Twitch is. I remember I started watching Twitch before any poker players were on it. Like I used to play League of Legends all the time. Mm-hmm. And they have, you know, a big Twitch channel there. That's probably the most popular Twitch game that streams. And I was always thinking, like, man, like, why don't poker players just like stream this? Like those high stakes players, they would get so many views, like, and they could even make a revenue off of what they're doing. Like it seems like a GTO thing. You sit there, you play with your variance, you know, win rate or whatever, and then you make a passive income while you're just showing everybody. Mm-hmm. Obviously there's a lot of downsides, like showing people your game, showing, you know, like the flow. And then if you have a short pool, then it's like, well, what the hell are you doing? You're giving away all this information. Right,
exactly.
So I understand the nosebleed players not playing it, but like people like me who played, you know, 5, 10, 10, 20, well, I could show you what I'm doing and it's still not really going to do much, in my opinion. Like I have a very theory-based game, right? When I make decisions, of course I'm not perfectly GTO. No one's perfectly GTO. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't like when people say they're GTO because they don't really even understand what GTO is. Like, okay. And I'm far from GTO, right? I think players like Sauce and Ben, they're closer than everyone else, but they're totally far from GTO as well. So anyway, when I'm streaming, sorry, a little side tangent, but when I'm streaming, I don't think players are going to get that much if I don't explain my thought process, because they'll see me 3-bet a hand, and they'll go, "Why did he 3-bet that hand?" The explanation of why I'm 3-betting that hand is going to help you, not watching me 3-bet that hand. Does that make sense?
For sure. So we're talking about GTO. I'm just getting the fucking glasses on. GTO. I mean, we're talking about GTO. Got to get Ike over here. Ike, no? CeeGee, you know, PLO mixed game player. You play with him? No, you don't play with him. You play like a Hollywood Hacks never?
Yeah, he's a tough guy to play in 25-50 PLO. That's for sure. I never like when he's playing.
Allegedly, he's got a dream machine that actually tells him what to do. So I'm sure he's got to be challenging to play against.
You know, the thing that is most challenging against players like Ike is that he has the ability to do anything on every street. And that's something that a lot of regulars don't have. So like when you play your Ikes and your Bens and your Sauces, they're gonna like check raise you in a spot you're thinking they can't have that here. Like, how are they gonna check raise me? And then they check raise you, and then you just totally didn't prepare for it.
Mm-hmm.
So like playing those guys is actually a tremendous learning experience. But like, yeah, they're tough.
A costly learning experience at that too.
Yeah, I lost quite a bit at 2550 when I was learning. I learned at 2550, which also wasn't the best idea.
Is there still much 2450 that you're playing now?
It just doesn't run anymore.
Yeah.
Like there was a while like around Scupa, it was running almost every day, and I was playing in it as much as I could. And that was fun. But now it's not really running. And it only runs around a few fun players.
Yeah.
And they're few from far between now.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in the future with the rakeback situation. I'm sure the fun players are still going to be there, but you know, it's just
the fun players that are sitting at 25, 50, 50, 100 are going to be there. The fun players at 510, 1020 might not be there very long. Because first of all, people with a lot of money generally are smart in some facet of life, right? They made money, they did something, they generally speaking. And
I would listen. I'm not saying anything about that. You go ahead. Go ahead. There's generally they're smart. Okay.
And they're gonna know if PokerStars takes away the rake that's going to be a portion of their earnings. Like I'm sure a lot of these fun players aren't like, oh yeah, I lost 50K today, no big deal. Like I'll get them next time. They want to win just like everyone else. You know, they want to get better. I can't remember who it was, but I saw like a post on 2+2 from this guy who was a fun player, and he was saying like he wants to become better.
I saw that post too. The alleged fun player. I didn't see no receipts, so I'm not taking anything for stone.
Even if that post was false, right? That idea still exists of that person that wants to get better, that's not good, that's going to play, and you take away more of their edge, you know, with the rake, and it's just that much harder. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun with this community. It's going to affect it, and it's going to trickle down for sure.
Mm-hmm.
2.5 is going to be very tough. I think 510 and 1020 are still going to be fairly the same people, because a lot of those people are the people that are beating the game. They're not rakeback players. The rakeback players are at 2.5 and under, I think.
Shout out to the rakeback players out there. I don't know if they're at 2.5 necessarily, but they're at 1, 2, and 50 cent dollar, man. You got to look through the pool some of the time. It's just kind of sad, the names that have fallen. You got to pour out some fucking Jack Daniels here for some of the guys at 1, 2, and 50 cent dollar Zoom, man. Shout out to Blues and Soul. It's been a rough road for you, Poppy. It's nice to see you still battling out there, my friend. I'm happy to see you still around, still pushing it, man. Shout out to you, Macy K. Shout out to you, Macy Q. Shout out to you. All my friends from Poland that can't make it anymore. Shout out to you guys. Sorry, we're getting a little eulogy to those guys. I'm going to save that for the award show, man.
That's cool.
I got a lot of love for those guys that can't make it anymore, man. You guys battled for a long time. You tried your best.
I like those PLO podcasts you have with I think you had MDU on recently, right?
MDU, that was in February, but it's kind of recent, you know, 10 months ago.
Was it in February?
Yeah, February, January, yeah.
You know what I did? I watched some of your podcasts recently, and I didn't really look at the dates, so maybe I thought it was recent. He's from Poland, right? Or something like that?
He's from Poland, living in, I think he lives in Ukraine, potentially. He lives in a different country. I don't think he lives in Poland right now. He was studying to be a doctor for a while, and then he took some time off from poker. He's going to get married. And
yeah, I saw that. That was a good one, actually.
Yeah, I liked him. I like honestly, every PLO guy I've had on, I really like. It's going to be impossible for me not to have someone on that plays PLO as their profession and not like them. It's just, right. Yeah. Okay, back to the Twitch stars thing. What do you think about the Twitch superstars?
Damn, that went on a tangent. I'm sorry. Yes, I think it's the best thing. One of the best things that could have happened for poker. You have like your Jason Somervilles, and he's so good for poker because he's got like the perfect mixture of entertainment value and poker playing like value. Like he's good enough that players can learn from him, so they watch for educational purposes, and he's also entertaining enough that people watch just to be entertained by him that don't even play poker. That's like the GTO combination of a Twitch poker streamer, because you have your people like Jay Nandez. Shout out to him. I watched him a bunch because I played with him, and obviously I want to know what he's doing. But he's more of just the strategic side of one game, right? Of PLO. Like if you don't play PLO, you're kind of out of the loop and you're not sure what's going on. He's a little entertaining, right? He's got like his DJ live and stuff like that.
DJ, huh? Okay.
Or I don't know what it is, but
a DJ.
Anyway,
got a real live got a professional DJ in the house. Shout out to the DJ, man.
And so yeah, I think it's a good thing. And the guys that are doing it right, like I think Jason Somerville is like one of the best Twitch streamers because of what I mentioned. And then you have kind of like a couple of tiers, right? Because he's in a tier on his own. He's getting like 8,000 viewers at one time. No one else is really doing that. Then you have like your Jamie Staples, and yeah, shout out to Jamie Staples. He's like a little bit of a tier below Jason, right? He's got like a congruent followers of like 2,000-3,000 or something like that. But he's got the entertainment value too. He's got the learning and the entertainment, and he's approaching it. The kid seems very smart. Like the way he's approaching it, I think he's got like an economics background or something, right?
No.
I think something like that, but he's really approaching it in a business aspect. He's building a brand. He's trying to do something. He's got a vision, and it's coming together. I remember when I started playing around with Twitch, right? I just threw up a budget setup. I didn't know how to do anything, so I bought XSplit or whatever, and then streamed my 1020, and then had like 150 followers or viewers or something like that. And I saw Jamie. He had like the same amount, maybe a little bit more.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Who is that? Jimmy?
Jamie Staples.
Jimmy Stapler. You referring to Jimmy Stapler, right? That's my boy, Jimmy Stapler. Okay, Jimmy Stapler. Okay, go ahead. So Jimmy Stapler. He
was doing it too, and I noticed that he had like a nice setup on the screen. Like he had some good graphics and stuff like that. He had this whole like every successful Twitch streamer has like a gimmick, right? Like a character. You have
I don't got a character.
No, never. Not you.
You think I got a character?
I think you got a little something going on.
I have all the time, man. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm literally like this all the time. This ain't no fucking character.
Right. But that's good though. That's good that you're that animated, right? Because then you get more attention.
I suppose. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if I go on and I just strictly start talking like this every single podcast, people are going to turn it off because it's going to be the same kind of spiel every time. But you build up this person that you represent, right? Like Jason Somerville's got this person. He's got like these catchphrases. He's got, his bird, his mechanical bird that everyone loves. He's got a fish tank in the back. Like
I don't know any of this. How much time are you on Twitch? I've honestly spent 0 hours on Twitch the past 2 months. Like I don't even go on Twitch anymore. It's like, it's so fucking boring to me. I mean, that's just me. Shout out to me. Like that's what it is. Like I'd rather spend my time not being on Twitch unless my boy Adrian Phoenix is streaming. Shout out to Adrian Phoenix. But I don't know.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not trying to endorse anybody. I just honestly think like that's the way to do the Twitch thing. I spend a lot of time on Twitch because I think I learn a lot from it, right? Like I think it's a good opportunity. There was a while where some of the PLO players were streaming or whatever, a very short while. But you had who's that guy from Brazil, the 2550 PLO player?
Gabriel Golfe, aka Verboasis, aka Justin Timberlake of Brazil.
Exactly. Like he started streaming like a couple of times. And I was watching it. Every time like a new poker player comes up, I look on the list and see if there's anyone I know. Because it's A, learning experience, B, it's entertainment, and C, I think it's like the future of a lot of poker. So I'm actually interested in getting back into Twitch, but I still rather focus on poker than that side yet.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Overall, I think it's great. I think it's headed in a good direction. And I think people need to utilize it a lot more. Like one of the ways they could is some of the higher stakes players, like some of these nosebleed players, like if Isildur streamed, I guarantee you he'd get like 20K followers. You know what I mean? Like, 20K viewers. Sorry.
Kind of depends what you want it for, though. Like, I mean, not everybody really cares about, especially in poker. Like, everybody cares about building up a brand or like monetizing like a very time. Like, I mean, honestly, like the amount of money you make doing this stuff, I mean, maybe you can get to. I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm gonna make infinitely more just getting better at poker and playing poker. Like, it's in comparison. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like,
it's just another facet of poker. But because of those guys, they're growing the game too. They're helping you make money, whether you see it directly or not. They're helping attract people to the game. They're helping putting money into the pool. They're help keeping poker going, basically, right? Like without them, we're not getting any exposure. We're not getting any like new kind of thrilling thing. Like it brings people over to poker, and that's a good thing for everybody. So even if you're not focused on building your brand, those guys that are, they're going to help poker one way or another. Just like, you know, Daniel Negreanu helps poker.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. I think that, you know, I don't know, man. I'm sort of, I haven't been focusing much on the poker world these past couple of months. So I've sort of, you know, I was with that idea for a while, but like, there's just so much, especially after all the star stuff. I'm just like, you know, I just don't care anymore. I'm not trying to like build. Like, I don't think poker. Honestly, I don't think poker is something that people should be playing. Like, I honestly, I can say that. Like, I don't think me being out there influencing people to come into poker, like, I think it's bad. You know, I don't like. That's not my goal. I don't think it's good. I don't think you should play poker. I think half people out there playing poker right now have absolutely no chance to make any money at poker in any sort of time. I think they're gonna put themselves in some bad positions in their life. They might have some fun. They might enjoy themselves, but that's honestly what I believe. Especially with online these days, there's so much fucking, you know, shady shit happening. There's so much fucking cheating. There's so much collusion. There's so much multi-accounting. There's so much seed scripts that you're playing. I mean, there's, you know, maybe you disagree with this, but I don't think there's a lot of aspects of online poker that are on the up and up necessarily. If you're in the United States, you got to play on these sites. The cash outs are suspect. You're getting a lot of fees taken away. You got to play on the sites where there's this potential fucking, like, that's why I don't stream much anymore outside my podcast, because I don't necessarily want to advocate people play on WPN or Babavada or any of these other fucking sites. Like, I don't want to advise people playing at these sites where there's bots in the games, and, you know, like that's why I don't stream anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that.
But you think from like a selfish poker player perspective, it's good for these guys to be streaming on Twitch because it's going to bring fish into the game, so that we'll be able to make money longer term.
Right. I mean, if you want to keep this poker train going, you're going to need to grow poker. It's not something that's going to just be around forever. You know, there's a lot of smart people I know that think poker is just going to be dead in a couple of years, and that's it. Like, it's not. I would never advise anyone to start playing poker.
For sure. You know what I mean,
that's been gone for a while. That idea, making poker, like playing poker for a living, has been gone for a couple of years now, in my opinion.
I don't think so. I think you can. You just got to work your fucking ass off. You got to be putting in more work than anyone else you know. Like, I think you can still do it, but it's not feasible for 99% of people out there listening to this.
Right. Well, like, that's what I'm saying. You and me are doing it. We're doing it, right? We're making money off of poker right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not impossible, but I've been playing poker for 6, 7, 8 years. You know, like, if I came into this poker environment right now, yeah, maybe I could beat like 50 cents a dollar, 1, 2 or something after a year or two of like working hard studying. But that's like, by the time I've gotten to that higher level, it's so hard. It's like insanely hard, and you're behind the curve, like from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Like right now, I am so far behind the Sauce, the Ben 86, those guys, because they've just had so much more time working on the game than I have. It's as a matter of fact, like, no level of genius is going to catch me up to them unless they stop working. That's it. And I know they're not going to stop working for a while. So to a degree, you have to be realistic about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We got my buddy JMO in the chat. What's up, JMO? He says, "What up, CeeGee?"
Yeah.
Jason Mo. Mr. Blaza says, MTT field is clean, no colluding or cheats whatsoever. Honestly, I know you're kidding. Second of all, in terms of MTT field, there's hundreds of people playing from the United States. There's infinite amount of ghosting happening when people reach the final table. I mean, listen, there's a lot of fucked up shit happening down there. I don't like to talk about this stuff all the time, but now I'm getting a little fired up about this because, you know, and then we talk about PLO. Like, I don't even want to encourage anyone to play PLO. Honestly, why do you think I don't talk about it anymore? I stopped making PLO videos. Why do you think I stopped doing that? I don't really want people to play PLO. The rake's on fucking beat. You can't beat the fucking rake. Like, 1 out of a couple hundred people is going to beat the rake at small stakes on PokerStars these days.
I mean, the funny thing is, well, first of all, I don't think you're going to get anybody coming into PLO that's not already in PLO that's going to take away your money.
What do you mean?
Like, where are these PLO players going to come from that haven't played before that now are taking your money away from you? Like where are they, like the no limit games? Maybe it's the no limit players generally aren't going to come to PLO that haven't already been playing PLO.
I was talking about just introducing people to PLO in general.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, who are you going to introduce to PLO that's going to be able to beat you right now?
Well, I'm not worried about beating me. I'm worried about them beating PLO. Like them just playing PLO, they're not going to win money at PLO. So basically, the more people I send into playing PLO, the more people that are going to be losing their money because they're not going to be beating PLO.
So you think it's more of like a moral standpoint where you don't want to encourage people to like play because they're going to lose? Before
I've used to think that you could, but man, I'm just not like the bot situation's fucking real. That's a real thing on PokerStars. You think if people think there's not bots playing these small stakes, micro stakes game on PokerStars, you got to be delusional if you're not thinking that. And we saw the way they handled the situation. Ever since then, man, I'm just like it's hard. Like yeah. I am not sending anyone to those games on stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you want to play, you go ahead and play. And it's possible to make it but not to the point where, I want to be advocating for it like I used to be.
It's hard. I mean, I came up through those games. Like I was playing 10 cent, 25 cent in December.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I understand everything that's going on. It's possible to get through them. It's really tough, but it's possible. Yeah, let's direct this away from. It seems like you're getting a little mad right now. We don't want to upset you.
I'm getting fired up, man. I'm getting fired up.
Get fired up. I want to
about the idea though.
I did want to talk a little bit about the idea of like reg and giving back and stuff like that.
Oh my god, everyone's on this thing. Fuck, man. I can't get away from these fucking guys. Reg, man. The ultra massive alticism, man. Shit. All right, go ahead.
Let me tell you something really quick. In college, I was a philosophy major, right? I studied morality and I studied ethics. That was the first thing I did.
Okay.
I got into effective altruism in like 2012, 2011. Before anything like this happened in poker. So I was like studying Peter Singer and all those guys a while ago. And I started like thinking, well, what's the purpose of me playing poker, etc. And long story short, just like everyone else in reg, I figured that I can make money and through my poker playing, I can give back. So, but I started doing this in like 2012, 2013. And I started creating an idea and I started like doing some research and stuff like that. And then reg came up and I was like, oh, well, they're just going to do it better than I am. So I just jumped on the reg train. That's basically what happened. But I think they're doing something really good. And I just wanted to give them a shout out for, doing it so well. And if you're a poker player, I think it is important to have some kind of goal of why you're playing poker. Right? Like what motivates you to keep playing poker right now? I'm curious.
Fuck, man, I have no fucking idea. Believe me, I have no fucking idea, man. I don't know. I don't care about making that much money. I mean, I got enough money. I don't need no more money. So I don't know. It's a great question. I ask myself this all the time. That's probably why I don't play much poker. As much poker as I guess if I lost all my money, I'd play poker. I'd put in a hard 70 hours a week and make a bunch back. But I don't know. I don't play much poker anymore.
I think a lot of poker players right now, if they don't have the motivation to be playing poker or the direct goals to be playing it, they're just gonna not want to advance their game. Like a lot of these guys that are playing and studying and working really hard have some kind of goal in mind, right? They want to retire, or they want to give back, or they want to just play with the best players, and that's good enough for them. But if you don't have something motivating you behind poker, it's going to be really hard to succeed in it.
My issue with the whole reg thing happening right now, as something on Twitch, Matt Laker, shout out to Matt Laker 94. I think a lot of people that are getting into this thing are getting into it with like, it's sort of becoming a thing to do.
It's like
it's like the feminist. It's like all these things in poker. Like these people are now getting into this because it's like the thing to do. You want to be in the fucking club. You want to be in the crew. You want to be like respected. I donate the fucking rag. Like it's not like these people. I think a lot of people, and I've talked to them, I don't think they give much a fuck.
Let me ask you this though. Okay, out of all things to be on a bandwagon for, don't you think that giving to the poor or helping out other people is one of the best things they could do?
I mean, I suppose, man, if you want to look at it from that perspective, then yeah, I guess that's one of the better things they could do if they're going to choose to get on a bandwagon.
If there's going to be a bandwagon, it's really good that it's helping other people. And that's something that charity needs, because you look at, I'm not going to get too much into the reg conversation because clearly you seem like you're a little distraught from it.
Nah, I'm not distraught. I'm not distraught by the idea of reg. I think there's a lot of, someone said charity.
I think you hate the board. I think you hate the bandwagon people.
I think there's a lot of charity shaming happening in poker right now. There's a lot of the feminists are going fucking insane. The PC people are just losing their fucking minds in poker right now. And it's an interesting world, man. It really is. And I think with the reg thing, and now it's becoming really trendy. Like now people are doing charities to do charity. Like it's just like, I feel like people's intentions aren't necessarily honest in what they're doing.
It's relevant. It's very relevant right now in poker. And one of the questions that I studied a lot when I was in moral philosophy was the question, if someone gives with the intention of making themselves feel better rather than helping others, is that morally wrong? Like, are they making a mistake because they're giving solely for the purpose of their own gain? Or is it like neutral EV because you're still giving to charity and those people are still receiving, and getting help? Like, sure, there's this huge like bandwagon thing in poker, just like everything else. You had your like bandwagon super health, like yoga meditation phase. You had your like, your ballin' phase where everyone was balling with like super watches and super cars and stuff like you have all these phases of poker players. But out of all the phases that happened, like this one's actually a benefit to other people, which is kind of exciting in the poker world.
I feel like a lot of people, like with the perspective that you have, like, so now if someone doesn't agree that you should be donating to charity, so it's sort of like, it's like, I feel like that's the kind of thing, that takeaway I get from it is a lot of guys who are on the reg bandwagon. Like, if you don't necessarily agree with what they're saying, like, that's a bad thing. Like, what is it that you think it's a bad thing if people out there, don't necessarily agree with it or don't necessarily think like, I feel like there's, if you want to make a, give back, like, there's other ways besides just with money or with the reg, like.
Of course. And there's a ton of things that you can do to give back. So when I first started thinking about what I wanted to do to give back, EA, effective altruism, was like attractive to me because it's the GTO of giving, right? It's like the GTO of charities. It tries to figure out the most effective way that you can help other people. And that really appealed to me. So like, it sucks that, you have this feeling that everyone's bandwagoning onto this idea, but it's a solid idea because it has a really strong root in logic and a really strong root in science. And it's how we're going to go forward into the charity sector. So like, it's a great idea. But of course, there's other things you can do to help. I think the problem is a lot of people take EA too far. You have a lot of guys that are super into EA that want to make a difference, right? They want to be the most GTO. They want to tell people to do the most GTO, and they think the only way is the EA way. And that kind of takes a lot of good and bad with it, because you have the people that are interested in charity and interested in giving, and they're thinking, well, why is this guy telling me how to spend my money, how to help other people, right? They're like, well, I can do good by, go volunteering at, a local community or something like that. Why is that not good enough? Why do I have to donate money across seas, right? Because that's what a lot of these EA organizations are saying. But like, you're doing it for a reason, right? If you want to be GTO about helping out someone else, this is probably a good idea. If you want to be helping other people for the sake of helping other people, then do your thing. I'm not advocating against doing that. I think that's great. And I think the people who aren't on the EA bandwagon still can help out other people.
So you think everyone should be helping other people then?
Personally, I came to this idea that basically I think it's important to help others because I had like this, quarter life crisis. Right? I was kind of living my life, playing poker, making a bunch of money, thinking like, what am I doing this all for?
You know, like, why am I living my life? I don't really understand. Like, I was a philosophy major. You can imagine how deep it got into the conversation, right?
For sure.
And at the end of the day, the only thing that made sense to me after doing a lot of research in a lot of different areas was that I don't know why I'm living my life. I don't know why. I don't know if there's an ultimate purpose for what I'm doing. All I know is that there's people out there that are suffering. And if I can help those people that are suffering live a better life and increase the quality of their life, I know I've done something tangible with my life. Right? I know I've done something for someone else that I can measure, that I can see, that I know that there was a reason I was living. Otherwise, I end up going and doing my own thing. I end up being a PLO player. You know, I make tons of money. I buy a nice car. I buy a nice house. I have a family. I live my life, and then I die. Right? But like, if I can make an impact.
I mean, I guess that's like one extreme version of things. I'm sure there's other things along the way till death that you figure out. You know what I mean? Like,
of course. But for the extremist argument,
yeah,
I'm painting you a picture of how like I looked at things at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it just came to be that, well, I know that logically it makes sense for me to help others if there's people out there that are suffering. Like, I didn't have the most fortunate childhood. Like, I had great parents, right? And then my mom passed when I was 9, pretty early, and my life became a lot harder. I was in a rich town, but I was super poor, and it sucked, like at a pretty large extent, to have to deal with a lot of things that I dealt with. And I always thought, like, man, like, it'd be so nice to like be in a situation of, you know, better standing. I don't know what you say. And I thought, well, people used to help me, like the community centers, they deliver packages and stuff to us and stuff like that. And I thought that was like great. And it made me happy. And it made me think like, well, if I can do that to the extreme for all the other people in the world, like that's a simple thing for me. That's like, why wouldn't I do that?
Mm-hmm. What do you think about, I mean, don't you think you can do that? And like, you know, I definitely agree with the idea. I think it's like, it sounds like that's sort of like your meaning of life thing is you're trying to figure out a meaning or a purpose for your life. And this is what you found as motivator for you.
Right. Basically, it got to the point where, I mean, you can be religious and think, you know, there's an afterlife. I'm more of a kind of like, well, I don't know. If you had to classify me, I guess I'd be an agnostic, where I'm not discrediting the possibility of things, but I know right now what I know. And I know that I have no idea what's going to happen next. So why not make the best of what I have right now? And for me, that's making the most difference I can if I want to have meaning for my life.
That makes sense.
So that was that. And then I combined poker with that. And then Reg showed up and I was like, oh shit, this is great. They're doing all the things I wanted to do, but they have higher name celebrities and they have more exposure and they have higher stake tournament players doing it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm not saying go do this or go do that, but this is how I've lived my life for a long time.
I think my thing with Reg is that just like I've had interaction with some of these people that are promoting Reg and talking all this bullshit. Like they're talking bullshit. They don't like, I've talked with these and that's what makes me upset is because I've talked with these people and
right.
Like, and they're doing this just to, you know, further their name or you know, make them look like they're a good guy to people and putting out like a false portrayal of themselves. And that part just really fires me up because, you know, I don't like the fake fucking people. I mean, I know that's how a lot of people are. A lot of Twitch guys are like that too. Like they're a fake person on here. Like I like the same thing. I talk with a lot of the Twitch guys, you know, behind the scenes when they're not. And these aren't these. I mean, they're very characters. Like, as we mentioned earlier, these are characters. These aren't the real people they are on the Twitch.
Of course.
Yeah. John Haynes, thank you for subscribing, John. Oh my God, it means so fucking much. Like, no, they don't give a fuck. Like I talk with these guys, they don't care. And you know, that's the part of like, I got to deal with that better because that's something I got to deal with better because I just don't, you know, that part just fucking infuriates me. But that's how some people are. So I just got to understand that.
I think a big part of something I learned early on is use your energy wisely, right? Like if people are annoying you or people are doing something that you think is wrong, like say what you need to say and then forget about it. Like,
well, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why I don't spend any time in some of these avenues of
there's going to be a lot of people that are fake, right? In this world, it's going to come in all facets of life. If you see this happening in reg, where people start, promoting reg, and they think, oh yeah, like save the world, like, yeah, it's going to look fake. It's going to come off as bad, and that's one reason why I actually kind of backed out of my idea. Is it's really hard to promote charity without coming off as a fake person and coming off as like you're just doing it for the good, because you're going to get benefits, you're going to get media coverage, it's going to happen. So you're going to have to know how to deal with that. Like, I don't think anyone's particularly trying to be fake or come off as, bad, but it kind of comes with the territory of getting attention. And it's the people that start doing it because they see other people are getting attention, that's probably what pisses you off, right? Like the founders of reg, they did this. They didn't know what was going to happen. They just did it, and then it blew up, and then a lot of people jump on the bandwagon because they think it's good, but it's at its core, it's doing something good. And at its core, if you think that people are being stupid and fake, let them be stupid and fake. It's not going to hurt you in any context. Just if it bothers you, then spend your energy elsewhere, I guess. I don't know.
You're saying you think the people that started reg didn't anticipate this happening? What's happening right now?
You'd have to ask them. I don't know what they anticipated. All I know is that
I'm gonna have to think they did. So yeah. I went to a reg meeting this summer, and it was funny. Like, there was like a presentation they did. I thought it was really well done. Shout out to Liv, and I asked the really funny question during the reg presentation, because the main guy there, I think his name was Adriano. He was a fucking real good talker, and
yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he was a good talker, and I was like, so who makes the decisions with the money? Like, who decides where the money goes to? I was just curious. That was an interesting thing. Like, as the poker players, like who are the people behind the scenes? Like, who are they? Like you know what I mean? I don't know. Like what are the credentials? Like, what are their names? Stuff like that. I was just really curious about that, and I don't know. It was an interesting answer I got back, which was like a non-answer sort of thing. Because I'm always like, see all these charities, like, and there's always these like. A lot of horror stories out there from charities, from skimming and scamming and stuff like that. I see somebody going after poker players, like, and it didn't make much sense. Like, why are you going after poker players? But at the same time, I think they talked about how not many people in poker, no one was really going after poker players to get them to give to charity. So it's sort of like a market that hasn't been explored. And then the idea was to build in poker and then expand outside of poker. So I think they had a pretty good idea of the kind of route they'd like to go. And I think they probably foresaw the success in the poker world that they'd have with the players they got attached to it in the beginning, and with the plan of getting more people attached to it.
Becoming successful is a whole nother thing. Like, if a charity goes off, does something good, and then blows up, how they handle that incremental succession is going to really determine how they do, right? Like, if reg becomes this worldwide thing, let's say, then they're going to have to know how to handle everything that comes with being a worldwide company and stuff. So it's important that they scale correctly if they do scale, and when. What they do with their money, I think, is a little controversial. I think what they're doing is good on the whole. Like, they're the ones deciding where the money goes, essentially, but you can choose where the money goes. Like, they have an option of different of charities that are reg approved.
But no, my thing with that was, okay, but there's going to be a lot of poker players who then advocate for reg. So obviously everyone that wears a reg patch or talks about reg, well, now you're advocating for people that follow you, or your fans that follow you, or whatever, to now, reg, I support reg. Well, a lot of reg guys are people that do that. Well, they're not going to know where they want to donate the money to. They're just going to give it to reg sort of blindly because so-and-so promoted this or so-and-so advocated for it.
Right.
And, then it comes down to like where,
What I advocate for most is for everyone to do their homework, right? If you're interested in giving to charity, do your homework on where you want to give it. Like, when I first got into it, I studied all these different charities and looked at all their different credentials and how they're spending their money, where the money goes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's some really good companies out there that have been out there for a while that rate charities rigorously. Like, they have a very high standard of how the charity is operating. And if I ever donate money, I donate directly to those charities. I don't give it through reg. Like, I support reg, but when I donate money, I wire my money to the company directly, because I've met with like the COO of Give Directly. Michael Fay. He's like really smart guy, does really good things. That's one of the companies I support. I had a meeting with him in New York City just to get all the information I could so I know where my money's going 100%. And he was the most real person I've ever met because he told me, yeah, there's some scandals, yeah, there's this, and we take all that into account and we're 100% open, 100% truthful, and this is where the money goes. And he told me and he explained everything to me, and that's really important. So basically do all your homework, know where your money's going. Don't blindly give. That's dangerous. That's how charity became charity in the first place without EA, is people just blindly gave to like the Salvation Army or something, which is like, a religious basically group. And a lot of their money goes to like anti-religious things and stuff like that. It's crazy, right? People don't look into the things. They don't know where they're giving their money to. So yeah, just do your work, just like PLO, do your prep, know where everything's going, know what's going on. And that's how you're going to end up becoming more intelligent when you're giving to charity.
Definitely agree with that. My buddy Jordan's in the chat. What's up, Jordan? He said, "Give hype, fight poverty. Give hope, fight poverty." That's my that's our buddy's wife's charity. Shout out to her. I donated some money. She sent me a nice card. I thought it was a very good strategy by her. And they do some good work with the kids in Africa, man. I guess that's like charity. Like I've seen the receipts. Like I've seen the results myself. I guess that goes with due diligence. It just happened to the due diligence for that specific one happened to be in my face more, so I got to see it. Whereas some of these other things,
there's a huge disconnect from EA and actually seeing what's happening, because oftentimes the best GTO thing is to give overseas, so you almost never get to see what your money's actually doing unless you go overseas yourself, right? So I think there's lots of parts to charity. There's the part where you do the good, you give the money, you make an impact. And then there's another part where you get the fuzzy feeling, right? I did something good. Like you see it, if you go over to the street, you give a homeless guy $5 for a meal, you see his eyes light up and you go, I did something good today, right? That's the part that EA has a lot of trouble with, because connecting people with that experience overseas is almost impossible. Unless you present pictures of the people that they're helping, you give as much data as possible, you're as open as possible, you show them what you did with your money. It's a really tough thing to do. So a lot of times EA has a loss in translation with the doing good part because people just blindly give. And that's something I think is important to stay away from. But yeah.
Mr. B in the chat says, if I never have desire to donate to charity, is it something wrong with me?
No, I mean, what my path is and what other people's paths are dependent on what your values are, right? It depends on what you believe. It depends on what your experience has been to shape you to understand what's going on. Just because I want to give back doesn't mean that other people are bad because they don't want to give back. It doesn't.
I think a lot of people view it as if you talk about charity, like I don't want to donate to fucking charity, like people like, oh, you're such a terrible person, like you cannot possibly be a good person if you aren't using the word charity. I think there's a lot of people I know that donate to charity that are fucking terrible people.
Well, that's the thing. Like the thing about charity is, do you want to make an impact? Yes, this is a good way to make impact. You're not interested in making an impact for other people? Are you more interested in your own life and happiness of your own life and those around you? Then do that. Like, it's not yes or no. It's not clear. Everything's fuzzy. There's no right or wrong answers. If anyone tells you you're a bad person because you don't give to charity, well, maybe they have an argument, but it doesn't mean they're correct.
What if you give money to your parents? What if you give money to your family who doesn't make a lot of money?
Yeah,
well, I don't know. You seem to know more about this. I'm curious what you think about that. Like, what if instead of giving to charity, you give money to your parents, you give money to your family? So your extra money, you help them out. You want to make their life better.
What were you going to do with the money if you didn't give it to them?
I don't know. Spend it.
Well, then it probably made a more positive impact by giving it to them. Were you going to give it overseas anyway? Probably not.
Probably not, no.
So then you're doing a positive EV thing for charity.
So why do people feel like they need to publicize that they do charity, like they give people money? Like that's another thing that I seem to, I guess they want to advocate more people to do it, but it seems like everyone, especially in poker, like that gives money to charity, like they have to tell you about it. They got to post about it on Twitter. They got to post all this stuff. Like I'm donating all my money to, like, what's the desire, obsession about letting people know this?
There's two aspects of this. Okay. There's one that if you show that you're promoting giving to charity and people see that you're giving yourself, then it's going to make an impact for other people. Unfortunately, one of the bigger things that you can do is show that you're giving money and tell people that this is a good way to do it, because people will follow. Like, let's say Daniel Negreanu goes out and donates $1 million to give directly, right? People are going to see that and people are going to be like, wow, Daniel Negreanu, this, one of the best poker players in the world. He gave to give directly. Like, maybe I should look at give directly. Like, you make an impact directly to other people when you promote yourself on Twitter. Unfortunately, when you promote yourself on Twitter and show that you're doing something good, it's kind of like if a celebrity, if Brad Pitt goes out and says this charity is the best charity, I guarantee you all these nutso Brad Pitt fans are going to go out and help this charity.
For sure.
So you have a lot of power. Like with it's kind of interesting phrase, but with like Twitter, power comes Twitter responsibility, right? What you do with your fame, okay, I'm going to use that very loosely right now, but what you do with your fame and your followers is going to have a direct impact on what you promote and what you do. So those people that are promoting like reg charity, yeah, they come off as fake. Like, yeah, they're so silly, but they're rallying up people. They're getting people interested. They're getting people heated up. Maybe even like, look at me, I'm talking on your podcast right now about it, right? Like, it has an impact. So how you choose to use your power or your fame is directly correlated with the impact that you have. Like, yeah, that's that.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't make much sense that I'm telling you, man, it's just like a lot of these people out there are but as you said, it has a help. It's about helping people, and it still helps people no matter the intention of the person doing it. So
if you can take anything away from that whole conversation, then that's a good thing to take away, because you realize either way, if they're doing it for fame or whatever attention, it's still going to help people.
Okay, we'll take a couple questions here from the chat, guys. Hassan, when are they going to play poker and not dealing with all that problem fixing talk? Well, Hassan, you've been here the entire time, so I'm not gonna call you. I'm not gonna call you anything. I appreciate your question, and it's a great question. It's a very good question, my friend. Very great question. Very great question. But yeah, we're gonna take some comments from the chat, and then I probably should have ended this 45 minutes ago. But I was into the particular topic we were on, man.
Yeah,
a fun topic.
It's an interesting one. I gave you the degeneracy. I had to give you the other part.
I know you balanced it quite well, Puppy. You're fucking very GTO approach to the idea, man. You got us up. You started up here, and then you took us there. So yeah. I didn't see that coming. If you told me a prediction for the trajectory of today's podcast, I would not have guessed it went from that to that. So.
Well, that was the progression of my life, basically.
That makes sense.
I ended up having a total like 180 of what I was meant to do and what I wanted to do and how I was going to handle myself through basically going through all the crap that I went through.
Echo says, how excited are people to see Jay Carver sit in 8 game?
So that's he likes to, I think he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows he's not a winner in those games, and he sits because he likes to play the games. It helps grow the games. When he sits, 4 names I've never seen before sit with him because they want to play.
What stakes does he play?
40-80.
Oh, okay.
It's 2K buy-in, so it's 1020 PLO basically.
Huh.
The game plays 1020 PLO. That's one of the rotations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good. It's good for 8 game. I think he knows that he's just kind of doing it because he likes it and he wants to grow the game, and it's working. So I think it's a good thing that he's sitting, and he's willing to start games with me, which is fun. I would never advise him as like a friend like to play against me, but I think he knows that if he sits, other people are going to sit, and then that is going to create a fun game for him.
Jackson Lenhart in chat says, what does he think of the idea that charity can be harmful because it demotivates people to acquire things for themselves?
Well, that's the whole question of what values you have in life. If your goals are to accumulate materialistic things, then yeah, that's going to obviously hurt that chance of doing that. But if you want to make a difference or you want to impact someone else's life, then you're going to have to make some sacrifices.
Isn't there other things besides just material things, just in terms of traveling or stuff like that? Like,
yeah,
maybe
of
not
course.
just buying things.
Right. Well, it sounded like you said acquiring things for yourself, right?
Yeah.
That was
Acquire things. Yeah, that makes
what it
sense.
sounded like. But traveling was one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had, and I spent a lot of money on that. I don't regret it. Growing yourself is a part of life, I think, and you want to spend your money on growing yourself as a person. If I were to just, not spend any money on myself, I'm not going to learn anything. I'm not going to get better. I'm not going to be a more efficient person in the future, which is going to affect my bottom line on everything else around me.
Makes sense. We need a power rankings. Nato says Nato1921. Shout out to Nato. Power rankings.
Power rankings.
We got power rankings. What do we got?
Mixed games, 8 game. Or PLO.
PLO and don't give me this. Don't just PLO. PLO and I already know what you're going to say to me. So 8 game, PLO and 8 game.
PLO and 8 game. Start off with 8 game because I know it better.
Okay.
I think the top 10. I don't even know if I can list top 10 because there's not 10 players that are consistently playing 8 game. You have, in no particular order, I would say Joizo, Alex on Moon, or Biatch People. Crazy Elior. Isildur, possibly. Sauce. Sauce is definitely like one of the best. My friend Mustafa Bet. That's 6.
I think so.
I think you have like some consistent players at 40, 80, 100, 200, like Enon, Fresho, OD. They're good players. I don't know if they're top 10, but
Jungle Man. What about Jungle Man?
Yeah, he's a interesting man. He's really good at a few games and then still learning a lot in other games. Like I may or may not have learned from him and he learned from me in some things, but I think he's gonna battle most people. Like he'll get in the streets just like Doug. Doug likes to battle people now. Doug started playing 8 game against me at 40-80, and he's not afraid to battle. Jungle Man, I don't think is too afraid to battle if the right guy sits. There's this guy Khaleesi. He's pretty consistently playing high stakes too. But the number one player probably is Sauce because he's just sitting all day and no one's playing him, or Biatch People. Like those 2 guys are probably the top 2 right now in 8 game.
Sauce, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too much of a surprise. The kid does too much work in the game, so he's gonna get good at every game.
Yeah. What about PLO? What do you got for PLO?
That's okay. So I think Sauce, Ben, Ike.
Who?
Hollywood.
Oh, okay, Hollywood accent. Okay, sorry, I didn't know you talked about.
I think there's some really tough players that play exploitatively. Like you have your Flongs. I think Flong is tough to play against. I don't know if he'd be top though. Because sometimes I have easier times playing like the top players than I do having playing the exploitative players because my game isn't really sound right now, and those exploitative players are going to win more from me than the theory players.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Flong.
Like he's just a pain to be on my left because he's very aggressive. He's one of the more aggressive players in the pool. The name comes to mind because I battled with him a lot. And then, of course, during Hastings Gate, I played a lot against Noel Hayes.
Who's that?
Hastings Gate, remember?
Oh, okay. Hastings Gate. Sure. So what are you trying to say about Hastings Gate?
I played a lot against him in mixed games in PLO. I actually probably played against him as much as anyone else did when he was.
Let me ask you a question. You think it was the guy on the account when you started playing with him? How long did it take you to realize it might not have been him?
I played against him for like 4 months before I ended up finding out it was him.
So you thought it was a fun player the entire time?
I had no idea. Well, anyone that sits down at high stakes mixed games or high stakes PLO instantly is like, who the heck is this guy? First of all, no one plays mixed games, so it's either Harrington or it's some other guy that you've never seen before.
It's always Harrington, isn't it?
Harrington
watch group on Skype that people have, and when a Harrington name pops up and sits against new guy, they always talk about who the person is.
He's on PLO. I'm pretty sure Harrington is like the numbers guy, like from England. There's this numbers guy who sat at PLO, played the same exact style as Harrington, and he plays high stakes mixed games.
Mm. Yeah, I think Luke Schwartz on the podcast, and he said he knew instantly that Noel Hayes was not a fun player playing high stakes. He knew it was somebody, he didn't know who it was. We said instantly.
It was really shitty for me because he beat me out of money because I assumed he was just a fun player. And I knew him in real life too. Like I know Brian,
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he didn't tell me like while he was playing me, like three-handed, four-handed at 100, 200, 25, 50, like it was just kind of like made me upset.
Did he give any money back?
He did. We made a deal. He did the right thing in giving me some money back. Yeah, I think what he did was handled very poorly. He handled it really poorly on Twitter, and then it was just a whole thing. People in poker are not publicists. They do not know how to handle themselves on Twitter.
It's pretty true.
Yeah.
I guess less is more is usually the better approach for a lot of people out there.
Right. But as far as PLO rankings go, I think there's a lot of players that are up and coming that are going to surpass Ben and Sauce and all those guys.
Like who?
I don't want to throw any names there, but they're young guys. They're like in the age range of 18 to 22, and they're very intelligent.
Why don't you want to name who they are?
Because I don't want to kill their action.
Are they heads up player? Are they six max? Who are these guys?
I don't know.
Huh. Okay. Nosedora says, I think Kumikon already has.
I'm not familiar with Kumikon, actually. I know he plays Disselder heads up all the time, but who is he?
He's a American guy who lives not in America for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Mysterious guy, though. I mean, I know his real name, but I don't know if it's like outed or not. So
okay.
I think he's like a mysterious unknown person. We're trying to get on the podcast. I think we'll be able to do it eventually at some point.
That'd be a good person to have on.
Yeah. Allegedly, he's backed for the games he plays against Disselder. So allegedly.
Okay.
Depends who you ask. A lot of people are backed at the games they currently play right now in the high stakes PLO world.
You know what's surprising? Yeah. You know what's surprising is when you start to really get into the poker world, how many people are actually broke.
Oh yeah.
Like
it's
everyone loves to tell you when they have money. No one loves to tell you when they're broke.
I mean, especially once you reach a certain status in poker, you don't want to tell people I fucked up. I lost all my money.
Yeah.
So I think it's a tanny bit. I'm not even tan. It's the light, man. I promise you, I'm not tan. I'm like red. I'm red because the light makes me look red. Balls, fat Dutch boy. It's a weird screen name. What about C Moose Power? Is he as good as Carver says, CeeGee?
No.
I don't know who that is.
He's a solid like regular for 20, 40, 40, 80. He's from Canada. I don't know who he is, but I've played with him infinitely. And I mean, Jay Carver is obviously like green in 8 game, so he's going to think a lot of those players are better than they are.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is. I'm not sure. I guess this is one of Jay Carver's. When Jay Carver plays, I guess this might be a guy here that he advocates for. So
he has like this friendly rivalry with C Moose because he loses a lot to C Moose.
C Moose is from Denmark, not Canada. Method says.
Oh, well, I think
FPT
this
player.
country says Canada.
Oh, Madam Method. I don't know. Me a professional railer. I think they I don't know. They know.
Yeah.
They know. So, all right, man. We got anything else we want to say? We got a lot of questions. I think we handled a lot. We're about the 2.5 hour mark here.
Yeah, I mean, those pretty much most of my life in poker.
No, man. We could have kept this going for like 8 hours though. Good. I got a lot more we didn't even cover. We didn't cover the fucking list. I got a list. We didn't talk about anything on the list. We didn't need. I mean, we kind of grazed some things on the list, but we certainly could have went more into much more things on the list.
Throw out one short thing on the list. We'll end it with that.
No, that's bigger. That's bigger. Biggest challenge in poker right now?
Ooh, good question. Climbing stakes is definitely the hardest thing in poker. Big challenge for me. My goal is to be playing 5K PLO consistently and higher. To do that, the amount of work that I need to put in is just so much. Because A, I'm coming from behind the curve from playing mixed games all my life, and B, these PLO guys are ruthless, right? They've been studying the game for 5-6 years, and they're tight-lipped about anything they're doing. So I basically have to sit there on the rail, watching all these hands of these high-stakes players, figuring out what they're doing, then putting kind of like a strategy together, incorporating those things, and understanding why those guys are incorporating the things that they're doing. It's difficult because you have some interesting.
That's the fun in poker right there, huh?
There was a hand the other day. I was railing the 5100 game that was going off on Zoom, and Sauce 3-bets. I'll throw in a little strategy here. Sauce 3-bets Queen Jack 7-8 with a 3 suit from the big blind versus Ben's button open, and I've never seen anyone 3-bet that. And I'm thinking to myself, why is he 3-betting this hand when it's like a sub, a sub-valued hand? Like, think about that. Queen Jack 7-8, 3 clubs and a spade in your hand.
How deep are they? Short stack? How deep are they?
They're like 150 big blinds deep or something.
Okay.
So when someone does something like that, I have to decipher, A, is he taking this seriously? Is he trying something new? Like, does he think that this is good because he's exploiting some kind of post-flop tendency of Ben? Is he exploiting some kind of thing because by putting this in his range, Ben needs to do something else that he's not doing? All these like questions, right? And then I'm sitting there for like 3 or 4 days asking the smartest people, and they're all like, he's just doing something bad. And I'm like, well, why would he?
I mean, it's hard to know. Like, it's really hard to understand what he's thinking about Ben's specific game in that point to really like be on the rail, I think, and understand exactly why he might be doing. I mean, he might just, as you said, it might be just a bad play. It might just be clicking button, but to him, he might have some logic that only he would understand in that situation. And
right. And then you're trying to figure out, well, why does he know something I don't? That's the biggest challenge for me, is to see what these like top players are doing, figure out what they're doing, why they're doing it. And I have a good idea of what a lot of them are doing, and I understand it. But like once in a while, they'll like switch gears and start doing different things that no one else is doing, and they're winning and they're crushing it, right? They're like absolutely crushing it. So it's you have to be ahead of the curve, and the biggest challenge in poker is being ahead of the curve by far.
Yeah, I always think like the best players at PLO just like they just understand how to play their range versus your range in those spots better than anybody else, and they know just how to perceive, like how you perceive what they're doing. So when they do switch up in those spots, like they're just that much better in those spots at identifying what you're doing and what they can do to beat you. I think that's what makes those guys.
Right, it's hard work. It's not like a super formula, right? You do this, you succeed. They sit and they do the work on all those situations. Like they study the game from a theory perspective. They don't study hand histories. They look at, well, how is this how am I going to group my hands in this situation and stuff like that. And they're beyond everyone else right now. And my goal is to catch up to them and maybe someday surpass them if I'm ever so inclined.
And I hope so, man. I hope so. Be a great story, right?
From playing 10 cent, 25 cent in Germany, Busto to here. Yeah.
Shit, man. Well, we'll be following along, obviously. Do you tweet a lot for people out there if they want to follow you on Twitter?
Social media is not my game. I actually don't have a Facebook. I have a Twitter, but my tweets are few and far, so I don't think I would promote myself for that stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll be following along. You post on 2+2 a little bit, right?
Yeah. I've been on 2+2 since like 2007. Shout out to the Stud Forum.
Shout out to the Stud Forum.
That's where I came up.
Shout out to my boy Brandon Sheck Harris.
Shout out to Brandon.
Shout out to what's the guy that lives in Chicago?
Steve.
Yep,
Steve.
I don't know. I know Steve's real name, but I'm trying to think of his 2+2 name.
Electrical.
Yeah, Electrical. That's what it is. Okay. Shout out to Steve.
Shout out to Chips Ahoy.
Shout out to Chips Ahoy.
Yeah. I could do shout outs for days.
All right, well, let's wrap it up, man. If you guys just joined the end, I advise you to go back and listen to it. It's a great fucking podcast. The story at the beginning was great. The conversation in the middle was great. The conversation at the end was great. And I can't wait to have you back on again. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. I'm excited already for it, kid. I look forward to having you back on, man. I don't say that to everybody because I don't look forward to having a lot of people back on, to be honest with you.
Thanks.
I enjoy the convo in the moment, and then, I don't necessarily look forward to necessarily having them back on. But with you, I thoroughly enjoy. I can't wait. I'm excited, man. We got a lot more to talk about at some point in time, and I appreciate you telling your story, being open about your story, telling people the struggles, the ups and downs, and I think you got a really great work ethic on you. It sounds like you know where your mistakes are. Now it's just about conquering that discipline, conquering where you haven't been able to really excel in the past and where you sort of fucked up and put yourself in a handicap. And now it's just about actually executing that and actually following through with that and not having a degen moment again where, which we know, I don't know. I mean, we get degen lapses sometimes. It happens. Even if we try to put it's always in there for people that are a little bit degen, maybe like me or like you. So
when that 5100 was going, I had to restrain every bone in my body from buying into that game.
Shit. Well, that's something powerful to leave. That's a powerful last quote, my friend.
I think the thing you asked about challenges, I think discipline and getting myself, you said it the best, over-conquering those things that were obstacles in the past and going forward and knowing what I'm doing is a good challenge.
Don't you think you realize, like, if I just stick to these stakes, 10, 20, 20 to 50, like, I'm still going to get better. I can still build my bankroll. I can still build my skill level to the point where I can play this limit comfortably and not, if I like lose 5 buy-ins, it like sort of you know what I mean? Like, can't you realize that the short-term gain just doesn't outweigh the potential long-term gain you get from eventually getting to that stake, though?
Let's leave that question for another podcast because that's going to be another hour if you want.
That's a great fucking question right there, man.
That's a good one. That is a good question.
Man, that's a great fucking question right there. The only reason I asked that question so well is that I've asked myself that question for the past 4 years and my entire poker career, and then the past 3 years I've got exceptionally good at it, and I stopped punishing myself. I stopped fucking myself in the ass, as I might have put it back earlier in the podcast. I stopped punishing myself, and I stopped doing that. All right, like, instead of playing 10-20 with 120K roll, which obviously it seems like I'm sort of bankrolling it these days, but instead of playing 10-20 with 120K roll and going on a 20K, 50, 40K swing up and down, I can just keep playing mid stakes with a little bit of 5-10 and just have this consistent amount of money up till I got like 350K. Then I can go play. I mean, that's excessive. I know I'm not advocating anybody takes this bankroll. I take it, but when you go on these up and down swings, it's better to be safe than sorry.
We'll talk about my bankroll management next time.
We'll see if it gets better. You think it's going to get better over the next couple months?
It's already gotten better over the last 6 years. So I'm pretty determined. Yeah. I'm
excited to see what happens, buddy. I wish you luck, my friend.
Thanks, man.
All right, CeeGee. Thanks a lot, man. Everybody in chat, on YouTube, on Twitch, much love. Appreciate you guys coming on. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of great comments, a lot of great questions, and We'll be back tomorrow, not tomorrow afternoon. I'm not sure the time. Brian Rast will be back on. We'll be talking about his upcoming MMA fight with Sorrel Mizzy, and I'm sure we might get drunk. We'll see. Not sure what happens again. So, all right, take it easy, guys. Much love, Chris. Adios, puppy. See you later.
Thanks for having me. Later.
All right, buddy. See ya.